First up, wow.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes,
How's everybody doing tonight?
good. You turn up the
Okay.
volume. Anyway.
Can you hear me all right?
Mr. Chair, you might need to get closer to the microphone for some of the board.
How about now?
Sounds good.
Better.
Can I get can you ask our IT guy when we start to have a camera so I can see it faced on the petitioner?
Will do.
Great, thank you. Let me check my volume here.
It's not coming out in the speakers in the room, is it? Can you hear it, him or Robert? Okay.
I'm on two screens. Should I be on two screens?
You're very important.
Is everybody ready to go? What time do we have?
6:03.
I'm ready to go. Is my mic turned on? Do I have the thumbs up from IT?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, are we ready to proceed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, it's the October 26, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight, we have 5 matters on our petition. The first matter is petition 5054, Sandbar Management, Inc., property location 452 Route 28, West Yarmouth, the zoning district B2 and HMOD1. The applicant seeks a special permit per section 404.5.2 and 404.5.3 to provide seasonal employee housing in 100% of the rooms at the Town and Country Family Resort Motel. The petitioner here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Could you please identify yourselves for the record?
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer, attorney in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant. With me at the table is Joseph Marama, who is the applicant.
Okay. Good evening, gentlemen. Attorney Singer, would you like to proceed?
Yes, thank you. We were here before you last year, or earlier this year, for a permit for seasonal employee housing at the property, the Town and Country Motel property, for the 2023 season, and that was granted in case 5008. With conditions for coming back to request permission for next year with any changes that we're seeking. So we have submitted to you, which I'm going to be going over, a summary of reasoning and a memorandum. You also have 5 letters of support that were uploaded to the website. I do have extra copies if anyone needs them. Excuse me. So the request today, this season, or for next season, there are 4 buildings on the property, each 2 stories. There are currently a total of 148 guest rooms on the property. This past season, the board granted the special permit to allow 72 of the rooms, approximately 49%, to be used for seasonal housing with conditions that we will discuss. The Special permit was granted, subject to the seasonal employees signing a code of conduct that Mr. Marama had proposed that we'll discuss as well. And you also, in the decision, one of the conditions was that if we come back for a renewal, which we are, that we would submit a list of any complaints or incidences with the police and fire departments that were this season, so that we could discuss them with you and figure out what might have happened and how we want to moving forward. So I did provide a memorandum to you, which detailed, we went through all of the police reports for incidents at the property. Most of them were very kind of routine. Mr. Marama did meet with the chief and deputy chief at the police department earlier this week, and they did confirm that they have a good working relationship, that they did not feel overburdened last season, that there were no concerns that they have with this proposal tonight, where we're asking for 100% of the resulting rooms, which I'll get into a little bit more detail. Joe did discuss with the police department earlier this week to set up a regular meeting during the season with a police department liaison, just to make sure that they are continuing to stay in contact. You'll see that in one of the letters of support from a neighbor, Kevin Enright, who lives behind the property. He also stated that Joe contacts him personally every week to discuss any concerns or issues, so that if in fact there are concerns and issues, and there always will be, it's human nature, but they're being dealt with promptly and effectively. So for next season, as I said, Joe, not all of you were here for the review for this current season that we just passed. The three main users of the businesses whose employees needed housing were the Wicked Waves Water Park, Cape Cod Inflatable Park, which is Joe's business, as well as Dunkin' Donuts and Red Jacket. So those businesses, and you have letters from them, continue to be in support and in need of the housing, but businesses have reached out to Joe saying, look, if you have more room, more spaces, we have bodies, we have seasonal employees we need housing for. And those include not only the three I mentioned, but also Shaw's, Pancake Man, the Freebird Motor Lodge, Seafood Sam's, Lobster Boat, and Cape Cod Commercial Linens. So all of those businesses, in addition to the ones from this year, need place for their employees. So what Joe is requesting from this board, and I'm speaking to the chairman as well, I know you're remote, so I'm not always looking over there, but
That's fine. Thank you.
including all of you. Right now, there are 148 rooms. In making more kitchens, if you approve this proposal, the total room count will go down to 143. So he is requesting permission to use 143 rooms in all four buildings as seasonal employee housing. Under Section 40452 of the zoning bylaw, if you meet the 10 requirements that are set forth, you can do this by right. Joe meets 9 of the 10. And the reason we were here last year, the reason we're here today, is that he doesn't meet one of them, which is, by right, you can have 15% of the rooms for seasonal employee housing. If you're going to go above that number, you need a special permit review with a public hearing process with this board. So that's where we're here tonight. The special permit standard that you look at is kind of the standard one, that the proposal will not create undue nuisance, hazard, or congestion, and there will be no substantial harm to the established or future character of the neighborhood or the town. Applicant respectfully submits in this case that there will be no hazard, congestion, or nuisance. There won't be any substantial harm, and in fact, he's going to be, and he believes this based on his many years of experience, if not completely solving the seasonal employee housing need, up and down Route 28 for the summer businesses. Because with the 143 rooms, he'll have that additional capacity to service all those other businesses that have requested it. The housing will continue to meet the requirements of the bylaw. It will be only between April 1st and October 31st. The property is adjacent to commercial properties on Route 28, and the buildings are fairly far back from the 3 houses that are in the rear that are closest. Other than that, it's all commercial properties. And as noted, Joe does meet with the neighbors in the back. Mr. Enright is one he speaks with. There was, and I noted this in the memorandum, there was an incident this past season where one of the shuttle vans that was coming to pick up employees was honking the horn in the morning. And when Joe found out about that, was one of the owners in the back, was concerned about that, naturally. So Joe immediately, once he found out, took care of it and told all the shuttle vans, there's no honking the horns. You come, you pick up, but no more. So he was responsive to that as soon as he found out about it. All, again, going through the bylaw, all applicable Board of Health and state regulations governing such housing, maximum occupancy, all of that will be met. Joe has a positive track record working not just with the police department, but also with the building department and the health departments, getting all of the reviews that he needs. The occupants of the seasonal rooms will be employees of these local businesses. Many of the employees are going to walk to work because they're close enough. Others will be going to, like last year, with shuttle vans that the businesses provide. For example, Red Jacket sends shuttle vans to pick up the employees in the morning and bring them home at night. Others will have bicycles, some private cars, and public transportation, but it's not a lot on private cars. Excuse me. These employees will continue to be able to provide business to other nearby businesses like CVS, Dollar General, and restaurants, so they will be in the community, living in the community. Because of, as I just noted about transportation, it's not a significant trip generator. I mean, when the motel was there, that was generating a lot more traffic than, most of these people are not, most of these residents, they just don't have cars. So traffic is not a significant issue. Joe is proposing for the 2024 season to install a centralized commercial bike rack system in the back middle of the property for all of the employees' bicycles. So this year there was not that, and they did kind of go in different places. So he is going to install a commercial grade system to accommodate all those bikes. There is an on-site live-in property manager as well as full-time maintenance staff. The manager will ensure that all seasonal employees are apprised of the rules and the code of conduct before, during, and prior to during their residency, which is one of the requirements in the zoning bylaw as well. As far as control, this is something significant that Joe is proposing to change for next year. He is proposing to install 2 gates. One gate at the front of the property, wouldn't be right on the street, it would be back behind. So if you're familiar with the property, there's the front building, so the back of that front portion of the building where it kind of goes into the rear of the property. At that point, so behind the front 10 or 12 parking spaces, there would be a gate there. That gate would be closed and manned by his security detail from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. nightly. So he's going to restrict unwanted access to the property. And then there's going to also be proposing a gate there's a back, kind of more of a dirt drive out onto Able Road. That's going to be a gate that's just going to be closed for emergency access. So that was not something that was on the property this season. It was something that everyone felt would be helpful. He did have security last year, but there was no centralized place for the security. So now with the gate on the Route 28 side of the property, there'll be a guardhouse, for lack of a better term. And so the security will have a place to be, and they'll be very centralized to watch the property. And that will be every night. Excuse me. There will also be Knox boxes provided for keys for public safety, fire safety at both gates.
Could you explain what that is? I'm not familiar with Knox boxes.
Knox box is a locked box in which there are keys to the gate inside, and the fire and the police departments have access to them. Yeah, it's for emergency access through the gates. Each of the seasonal rooms, again, going to the bylaw, is going to have a refrigerator, pillows, sheets, and blankets. There are going to be 8 fully equipped kitchens spread throughout the property, and that's why he'd be losing some rooms. There are 148 rooms. There were 4 kitchens last year. He's proposing to double that because we're proposing to roughly double the number of employee rooms. So we'd lose some guest rooms, but there would be the 8 fully equipped kitchens. All employees, as per the bylaw, will have access to a kitchen. The trash at the property is collected and disposed of every day in the morning hours by his maintenance staff. And the applicant also provides daily kitchen cleaning and daily package mail delivery. So he is attempting to take care of all of the residents' needs. In addition to the kitchens, there'll also be 8 laundries. So there's going to be a place for the residents to cook, eat, and wash. The applicant, he will ensure that all seasonal employees to be housed at the site will demonstrate maintenance of a principal residence elsewhere. This is in the zoning bylaw. He'll keep records of all the employees utilizing such housing, name, permanent address, length of stay, again in the bylaw. And the proposed amenities, there are some outside picnic areas for where the residents can congregate. The pool, there was an outdoor pool on the property that's closed, and the indoor pool that's on the property will be closed. So those aren't going to be continuing. He does require each employee who lives there, not just his own, but everyone who lives there to sign a code of conduct. The code of conduct provides enforced quiet hours with no outside parties or noise from 10 to 7. And it's going to require that alleged nuisances and disturbances be first reported to the on-site manager and to security for resolution. One of the things that happened this past season was he had a number of he has both J1 and H2B residents. The J1s tend to be younger. Some of them, rather than calling if they had a concern about someone walking on top of them, they were calling the police instead of reaching out to the on-site manager, and so the police came, there was no issue, and it was just, just shouldn't have happened as a call. So one of the things he's going to add more expressly into the code of conduct is, look, if you have a problem, if someone's walking above you and you're uncomfortable or unhappy, call the manager. Let's deal with this on site. There's no reason to bother the police with that. In the code of conduct, it's also that there are weekly room inspections. Smoking is prohibited in the buildings and only allowed in designated areas. Overnight guests are prohibited. No personal items are to be left outside. Bicycles have to be placed in the designated area and locked. All cars, if anyone has one, have to have a permit and be locked. For a first code violation of the code, there's a warning, there's a fine for the second, and if someone violates it 3 times, they have to leave the property. Now,
Can I stop you there for counsel? Could I, I'm sorry.
Yes.
On that point right there, because I was going to ask a question. What type of arrangement do you have? Is there a tenancy that's created with these people? Are they guests? How would you describe their living there? Do they have a tenancy?
You do a contract with.
They sign a contract of conduct.
Yeah, no, I mean with the landlords, with their employers.
They have a signed
I
contract with
guess my question is this. My question is this: is if you have someone that you want to remove from the property, what is your procedure for doing that?
Go to the sponsor.
Oh, Joe can answer that.
We reach out to the sponsor that brought him into the country and the company that's actually hiring him here. So it's coming from 2 different fronts to the worker.
So can they legally be removed since they live there
Usually
without some process?
I don't know about legally.
Well, I don't believe it's a tenancy in the sense of, and I think this is where you're thinking, Mr. Igo, landlord-tenant law. These are employees who are in on, as Joe mentioned, they have a sponsor through whether it's the J1 or the H2B process. There are rules that they have to abide by for that, and I don't know all of them myself, but there are rules for those. And the employer has a contract, I assume, with the sponsor, as well as with Joe, to have the employees there. So as I see it, it's a contractual arrangement, and they're signing the code of conduct acknowledging that they have this contractual obligation, and if they are not abiding by it, then there are the consequences under contract. As well as maybe immigration. That's a separate.
Well, yeah, but in terms of they pay rent to live there, is that not correct?
Correct.
And so when you pay rent to someone, my understanding is a tenancy is created. I mean, for purposes of this petition, that question really isn't before us, but I would like you to look into that and find out how you would remove somebody legally from that property. And if you could submit a letter of legal opinion to the board, Attorney Singer, we'd appreciate that. We haven't run into that You obviously haven't run into that. I don't know if you just kick people out or whatever you do, but I would like to know the answer to that.
Okay, we can, as you said, it's kind of apart from this, but we can investigate that and submit a letter.
Thank you, thank you. And go
Do
ahead,
the
Mr.
occupants pay directly to Town and Country, or do they pay to their employer?
To the Town and Country.
The occupants pay.
Yes, so the residents pay to Joe's business, yes, to Town and Country. So also, as far as for Joe's employees, and this was something he did last year, I just wanted to repeat it, for all of you as well. He automatically enrolls all of his employees from his next nearby business into a bonus program whereby at the end of each month, if they live in the housing, they're given a bonus provided there are no issues. So he does offer some additional incentives to his employees. And his employees for the water park and the inflatable park, there are several dozens. So that's a significant number of employees that are his. We don't believe there's going to be any negative impact to drainage, stormwater, septic. All of that worked well this season, and we don't think there's no changes that are being proposed. We do believe, and Joe has spoken with some of the neighbors on this, that based on past experience, this proposal will actually have less impact on the neighborhood than when the property was a motel. And the transient traffic that was going in and out of that. So that is something that he feels is a positive, not only in the fact that he's providing a really important need for seasonal employee housing, temporary housing, in accordance with the bylaw, but also that it's just a good place for it from all accounts that we've discussed, given how it is back from the street, where it is, how it's surrounded, and it has worked well. He thinks it's going to be well in keeping for the neighborhood to allow the additional, well, all of the buildings, because two of the buildings this year, and we'd like to do all of them. I think that is everything that we had submitted. As I said, we do have more copies of those letters of support from the Chambers of Commerce and some other businesses if you need them. If you have questions or any other questions, be happy to answer them. We appreciate your consideration, and also, recognizing that what we're asking you for 100% or 143 rooms would again, at this point, be a one-year special permit. So as under the bylaw, we're trying this. Joe is working with the town to try to figure out how this can work to solve a problem for the town. Solved a good chunk of it this past season. He thinks he can solve pretty much all of it if you are willing to grant the special permit. It would be for 1 year. We'd be back before you a year from now, and we'd be discussing how it went. Again, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Singer. We're going to go to the board now for questions. Barbara, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, John?
Just a couple. With regards to the transportation for the employees, I know Red Jacket supplies transportation back and forth. Now, somebody at Shaw's or further down, they're on their own with the bicycle or a private car. Is that how that's going to work?
The Red Jacket and Dunkin' Donuts do their own transportation.
Right.
Obviously, for the park, they're just walking to the park, which is probably 75 to 80%. Now, they may go get second jobs, which is kind of the X factor where a bike could get involved.
And the other businesses, I don't know the answer to that question, other than to say that if they have enough employees, they would probably
Supply.
supply a shuttle van to get their employees. And it also depends on the distance. Again, Wicked Waves, they just walk because it's
Right,
two buildings
right, yeah,
over.
of course.
Dunkin' Donuts, there's one right nearby, so they can walk, but there are others that are further away.
Right, that's what I'm referring to. So, the Abels Road entrance will be blocked off. There will be, so the only access will be off of 28, correct?
Correct.
And
Emergency.
there was no issues with that? I know there's some police issues with noise, but there wasn't any issues with traffic or any issues on 28, cars coming in and out, as far as you know?
No, there was no issues.
Yeah. And then I did see one letter from a resident, Saddleback Road, and, he seemed to think it was working fine. You were keeping in touch with him, any issues, it was good, so.
I mean, we had a weekly text asking if there was any noise heard, and he would reply, all
That's good.
set, Joe.
That's good. So there was no complaints from any of the neighbors then?
There was one complaint, 2 complaints from the neighbors. He mentioned it with the horns honking.
Right, right.
I didn't know that noise got to them because I was using Kevin Enright as my kind of go-between. He didn't know about it either. We found out about it late in the season. I met with them this week. I feel they're very nice people and they're very willing to work with us.
Good, very good. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, right now.
Okay. Dick, do you have some questions?
I do. How many employees routinely would be working at the water park?
Approximately it depends on how many visas you get, somewhere between 85 and 120.
Really? Okay. And do most of those look for housing?
Everyone from the park is staying with us directly because we're dealing with their sponsor already directly, where say Dunkin' Donuts is dealing with their sponsor,
Yep.
even though we know all the sponsors at this point. So for us, it's always 100% are with us. So at Dunkin' Donuts, some may find, housing somewhere else. Yeah.
And do they have, is there any employee housing at the motel, at the site, at the water park?
No.
Didn't we approve that early on?
Maybe years and years ago.
Yeah,
We
okay.
haven't had anybody. We haven't had anybody there for 10 years.
I thought it was kind of a combination. And was there a combination of tourists and employees in the town and country?
No.
So you just didn't rent those other rooms?
I used them for this.
What happened is, as the season started, and Joe can tell you this better than I can, but he termed it an H-1B,
So it became, sometime in March, it became originally we had the 50%. Sometime in March, it became kind of a perfect storm for visas this year because everybody, I didn't know this at the time, everybody, say if we want 100 J1s, we put in for 135, 140 because you're going to get some that just don't get their visa. There's a 30, 40%, that you're going to not get. This year, all the kids I didn't know this, all the kids got visas in 2020 and 2021 and never traveled because of COVID. So they were already approved. So it was like 100%. So now I have way more than what I need. The Red Jackets getting way more than that they need. Duncan's getting way more than I need. At that point, I realized I was in trouble because I had promises to everybody. And then at the same time, sewer came into play in Yarmouth, and kind of my business model changed a little bit with that too in the future. So that's when I decided to take the rooms offline for guests and tried to switch them to the park because I didn't have enough for the J1s.
but they moved on those ones, if I'm correct, they were moving to meet the.
They moved every 28 days to meet the
differential rules
guidelines.
On those.
Okay, so you weren't in violation of the 49% because you were turning them over?
Correct, yes.
It wasn't ideal.
I didn't want to this season, but now, like I said, with sewer, our model has changed a little bit.
Well, I don't understand this.
Well, it's very tough to run the town and country as part of the park, not being on that property. Meaning the park is at the park, town and country's tougher, and it's, no matter what, I need 50% of the rooms almost just for me.
Yep, okay.
So it's very tough to run it. And now that sewer is coming, in my mind now, we feel that when it does come, maybe we just end up going for permits, trying to get a bigger hotel at the park. So everybody's
okay.
on that location.
Okay, I was wondering how
That's-
the sewer.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Future redevelopment.
Yeah, okay.
so I believe I would have come for 100% sooner or later. It's just become sooner.
And do you
Now.
also own the Mayflower, the old Mayflower Motel?
Yes, and with that being said, as soon as, if we get this permit, and we have one more thing with the parking lot, the Mayflower Beachway and Traveler will come down this spring.
For parking for the park?
No, it can't go for parking for the park. It's just going to be an empty lot.
For
but it will-
future development when sewer comes?
with future development of a hotel later,
We were
correct?
before the board, and Sean will remember this. I don't think any of you might have been here for that. We were before with a proposal a couple years ago or so to do some work with those motels. There were concerns and questions then, so we withdrew that application. Again, this was before the sewer. And so, yeah, with the sewer, as Joe said, it gives the ability to try to redevelop those properties with a conforming lot up front, some additional parking for the park. Obviously, it has to go through a process with the boards. But that then maybe changes what you need with the town and country in the future. And that's why, again, this is not a permanent special permit. It's a 1-year special permit to try to let the
Bridge the
process
gap.
continue. Bridge the gap, and it might be another year. I can't say it's going to all take place in the next year, but it's something that can allow that housing to be accommodated safely and well for the employees, for other businesses, while there's this change with the sewer coming.
Do you think,
With the change, I mean, if we do it right and get approved, we would continue it.
does the model of guests and employees work?
It's not ideal.
I would not think so.
No. So we have to end up, what happens is the park gets so busy, and we just spend so much time dealing with other issues, and the guest quality just goes down.
Yep.
So that's kind of when in March, I'm like, you know what? Let's the next couple of years, if we can do it housing, it solves all the problems in Yarmouth, and we just get our hotel straight at the park, because it's a lot easier, because they're on the park.
Yep.
And I don't have to deal with,
Employee issues and
Correct.
guest issues, yeah.
Yes.
I would think it would be a tough combination. And they're not going to have access to the pool areas, both inside and outside.
the outdoor pool will probably, if I get approved today and came back next year and was approved again, then the outdoor pool would go away. I would just take it out.
Yeah.
And then the indoor pool will not be in operation, and I would think of doing something with that later on with the students. Maybe it's a cafeteria, I don't even know, cafeteria or something.
Yeah.
Not going to do it until we know this is going to work.
But there wouldn't be an operational pool on the property with the seasonal residents, that, going forward.
Okay. So you have no, I won't say fear, you fully, you expect to be fully occupied in those 143 rooms based on the requests from the other employers?
I will be, as long as people are getting their visas like they are now.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go back to, say, they said the COVID era, they weren't. So 2020, 2021, nobody came. I mean, that something could always happen. But if it's normal life, yeah.
Okay.
And most of these people are getting second jobs and helping the other businesses in Yarmouth. So now people are getting, somebody that might be a smaller business, a Dollar General or something like that, they don't have to go get J1s themselves because they know there's a large pool at that property and they can just go and get them right there.
Now, is the resident manager on duty 24/7, or is there backup when he's sleeping?
Well, the front desk is on 24/7.
Okay.
Once June hits. There's somebody on the property living there 24/7.
Yep.
And then the security company we hire is from 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. 9
9 p.m. to
9 p.m. to 3 a.m.
3 a.m. And they're the ones that'll be guarding the gate and,
Correct.
okay. All right, that's all I have now. Thank you. Or whoever. Thank you, Sean, whoever you are.
Okay, Anthony, do you have some questions?
I do. I just have one, and it's more of a comment. But first, I'd like to say it's a wonderful and laudable what you're trying to do for the community and for staffing. It's absolutely desperately needed, so I appreciate that. The only thought that I had in the code of conduct that you have a request that they contact the on-site management first if there's any disturbances or things of that nature. And I get the control and not to overburden some, particularly, as you mentioned, some of the complaints were found to be all quiet or unnecessary. But I wouldn't want it to be something that we control or approve necessarily that would go as a strike against them if they do call the police. That's kind of how it reads as presented.
I mean-
And I don't want to, I wouldn't be comfortable saying to anyone, you have a strike against you if you do call the police. I understand that's not what you're trying to say, but
It wouldn't be a strike.
Okay.
This past season, it was the same person calling the police every time. It was an H-2B who's an older worker, and yeah, so we wouldn't be a strike against them. Yeah.
I just wanted to make
Just
that.
trying to encourage.
I can understand encouragement, but, if somebody was being raped or murdered, you don't want to tell them not to call the police.
It wouldn't be set up like that. Yeah.
I just wanted to make that
Absolutely.
clear. Other than that, I don't have any questions. I think it's well thought out and necessary for our town.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have any further questions. I think we've covered it all. We're going to go to the audience now. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone, tell us who you are, and tell us your thoughts. Seeing none, is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the microphone and tell us your thoughts.
My name is Sandra Armstrong, and I live on Coachman's Lane, which is right behind the property.
Good evening.
I have no opposition to what you're doing. In fact, I think it's a very good idea. However, I'm not quite sure why. I mean, I know you were in touch with Kevin Enright, and he said he had heard no noise. I did, and I'm a half a block away. At 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, I heard noise, and it woke me. And from what I hear you saying, that's not going to happen this next year.
Well, I thought I knew there was noise in the property itself, but I thought I had solved all the noise away from the property, talking to Kevin, because he was the closest, so I figured if anybody was going to hear it, it would be him. But the neighbors that, like you, ma'am, I can give you my cell phone directly, and you can just call me, and we'll solve it right there.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, I really appreciate it. And as I
And-
say, I do think it's a good idea.
I'll give you the number tonight before we
Okay.
leave.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please come forward. Seeing none. We do have some letters. I'm sorry.
Not in opposition.
Okay.
My name is Donna Zalauskas. I live on Southwest Drive in South Yarmouth. Driving by, I saw a lot of clotheslines on the balconies. That was not really a good representation we'd want tourists to see.
He's going to address that.
Again, knowing that it wasn't, I didn't know I was going to put that many kids in, we didn't have enough washers and dryers. The washers and dryers were in the other building, not on the building that she would saw, but that will be taken care of, and they will not be able to do that again.
That was listed in the documents that we received, so that's why it wasn't raised.
So on that note, if I could ask a question, are you increasing the amount of washers and dryers so there's adequate washers and dryers on the property?
Yes, we are. That's going to go with the new kitchens.
So go from 4 to 8.
Okay.
It'll go, all right, yeah, eight, yeah, 16, all right, yeah, 8 sets of machines.
Okay. All right. That should be plenty. Okay. Is there anyone else that cares to speak?
Hi, Gail Ladani, 59 Parkwood Road. I have spoken with Mr. Marama before. He's a good guy, and I think he's going to do a great job. My question is, how is this going to meet the need? You're saying that this is going to fulfill the need. You know what my concern is, Joe. My concern is that,
This will solve all the West Yarmouth. I know what her concern is.
Yeah.
It's the Village Green. And I
Well,
was
this
trying to
is-
tell you
yeah.
last year,
Wait a minute.
and I get it.
I'm going to stop. Wait a minute. I'm going to stop this right here. We're not here to talk about the Village Green, ma'am.
I'm
We've
not
already
talking
discussed
about
this.
the Village
Well,
Green.
what is your? Wait a
I
minute.
asked-
You're going to have to. Wait a
I
minute. Wait a minute.
didn't
Wait a minute.
mention it.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're going to direct your question to me, not to Mr. Marama. So go ahead. What is your question?
My question is, it has been said that this will meet the needs completely for the seasonal housing. I'm just trying to understand how that's going to be met.
Well, I don't think he's got a crystal ball that it's going to meet the needs of seasonal housing. He's going to make an attempt to meet his needs and the people that he's dealing with, which are a number of different businesses. That's all he's not making a claim that he's going to solve seasonal housing in Yarmouth.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that likes to speak?
Sean, I'd just like to ask another question from the board if I
Go
could.
ahead. Yep, that's fine.
I asked specifically so that I think everybody understands the motel at your facility, the water park, is not being used for employee housing.
No, it's not.
And you don't, and you expect that this year you will not be using the Mayflower
I expect the Mayflower, after this meeting, the Mayflower, the asbestos will be coming out,
Okay,
and it'll be getting knocked down early spring.
okay. So this season,
Only thing that would stop that is, and Sean knows, we have to go in front of you guys again,
yep,
Andrew, for the parking lot.
Yeah, there's another application we have to do to do what you said. We have to come back to you guys, but
Okay.
that's the plan. If this gets approved, then the Mayflower and the others would be able to be permitted to come down. You can't just do it.
yeah, I think, my concern has been, as we look at the affordable housing issues in Yarmouth, Route 28 seems to be a location that has been used for affordable housing for the year-round population, and probably will continue to be that way and maybe be added on to. But I don't know that we want all of the working people living on Route 28 and none of the commercial area generating additional tax revenue for the town. So I think, if it becomes a residential area, even if it's seasonal, and there are 3 or 4 motels that are going to be for seasonal employees, then I think that may be an issue for the planning aspect of the town.
No, those,
And
those.
I don't think necessarily a good one.
Those rooms will never be used again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
the-
go on record saying that.
And the idea, what we came before the board before, was to remove, it's confusing property lines over there, but the upshot was to try to create roughly where those 3 motels are, one conforming lot that would have a business. We don't know what it would be, but it would be a business. And there would be some improved parking for the park and the hotel back behind it. So, but to your point, this would have, those properties are beyond obsolete, so.
Yeah, I
you're
understand
not
that.
getting
I
guests in
understand
those
that.
anyway. So this way, with this property, with the Town and Country, it seems like a good place for the seasonal employees to have them in a location. And then you have the commercial use, which will be redeveloped closer to the park.
Yeah, and I think the essence of starting on Route 28 with the sewering was to promote some redevelopment on Route 28 for other than housing, I think, so. I just-
And being able to redevelop the hotel on the water park would be a prime example of that, because that's a funky building, to say the least, the motel that's there now, but it allows that redevelopment.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, I have a few letters here that I'm going to read into the record. The first one is from Mr. Kevin Enright, who I believe everybody understands is in a butter. My property abuts the Town and Country Hotel. I understand there will be a meeting regarding this property in regards to seasonal full-time housing. There have been no big issues that I can recall that haven't been dealt with by management. Joe contacts me personally every week during the season to see if there are any issues or concerns. Please reach out with any questions or concerns. Thank you, Kevin. He's at 15 Saddleback Road. The next letter is from Dunkin' Donuts, Kevin Amiot. My name is Kevin Amiot. I'm the Vice President of Operations of the Kudo Management Group. CMG owns and operates a number of Dunkin' locations, formerly known as Dunkin' Donuts, throughout Massachusetts, to include multiple locations in the town of Yarmouth and across the Cape. We have a location in Yarmouth that is located at 464 Main Street, which abuts the Town and Country Family Resort. I am writing this letter in support of the owners of the Town and Country Family Resort petition for a special permit for seasonal employee housing. For us to operate at optimal levels and provide customers in the town of Yarmouth and across our Cape locations with exceptional service, we need to hire seasonal employees, all of whom we need a place to live. Excuse me. Town and Country is a perfect location to house all of our seasonal employees. If the permit is granted, the Town and Country will house our workers in a safe environment that will allow most of our employees to walk to and from work. If the permit is not granted, we will be forced to either operate short-staffed or transport our employees to and from other cities and towns. The owners of the Town and Country Family Resort have been our neighbors for many years, and we have enjoyed the relationship. By granting the special permit, the Yarmouth Board of Appeals will be helping our businesses continue to support both the town of Yarmouth residents and those who vacation in Yarmouth on a seasonal basis. Thank you for your consideration. The next letter is from the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce. In 2022, the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce established the Yarmouth Community Partnership, whose role is to address ideas and challenges facing our business community and residents. The partnership is comprised of representatives of the business community and residents. The partnership brainstormed to prioritize an extensive list of issues facing our community. Workforce housing became the #1 topic to address and to assure our seasonal workers have safe, clean, well-maintained and managed housing. The members worked closely with the Yarmouth Planning Board and Building Commission to successfully amend the zoning bylaw, section 405.5, seasonal workforce housing at motels, hotels, at the 2022 annual town meeting. Our businesses continue to struggle to find adequate housing for their staff, no more than ever before, with the ever-changing housing market leaving our businesses unable to hire staff. Yarmouth has one of the highest numbers of seasonal workers on Cape Cod. Many of these employees work multiple jobs, allowing our restaurants, motels, retail stores, and destinations to stay open. Without them, businesses are forced to reduce their hours and in some cases close. We are writing this letter to support the application for the special permit for the Town and Country Family Resorts for 100% seasonal workforce housing for the 2024 season. The owners of the Town and Country Family Resort located at 452 Route 28 in West Yarmouth have successfully implemented practices to ensure and provide safe, clean, and friendly seasonal workforce housing for a substantial number of businesses in Yarmouth. We appreciate the fact that the ZBA understands the ongoing crisis for housing for the seasonal workforce and your recent support by approving the special permit to Parker's River Resort, and hope you will support the request from the Town and Country Family Resort to meet the demanding need for housing. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sincerely, Mary J. Vilbon, Executive Director. Next letter is from Waquasit Resort and Golf Club, but I think this is Dear Patrick and Joe. EOS Hospitality Red Jacket Resorts will rent 70 beds for the 2024 season to house our employees across Yarmouth. We'll provide daily transportation to and from Town and Country and the 5 Red Jacket properties. Our Yarmouth properties include Red Jacket, Blue Rock Resort, Blue Water Resort, Riviera Beach Resort, and Green Harbor Resort. Welcome the opportunity to partner with you to provide affordable employee housing on Cape Cod. Thank you for your consideration, and please contact me if I can provide any additional information. I think this letter was to you, Joe, not to us. I don't know, but we received it.
Okay.
Last letter is from the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. Dear board members, on behalf of the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, I write to you in support of the owners of the Town and Country Family Resorts petition for a special permit for seasonal employee housing. Founded in 1921, the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit membership organization that advocates on behalf of businesses to strengthen and promote regional economic vitality while addressing related cultural, environmental, and community concerns. As the Cape's CVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce is dedicated to helping visitors to our region make the most of their vacation experience. In order to provide visitors with an exceptional experience, Cape communities need to work together to retain our seasonal workforce. Thus, we must address the seasonal housing shortage. Utilizing existing infrastructure, in this case motels and hotels, is a great place to start. If this permit is granted, the Town and Country will be able to house workers for the Cape Cod Inflatable Park, the Red Jacket Resorts, and Dunkin' Donuts. All of these businesses are vital to our local economy. Without this special permit, these businesses will likely be unable to fill key staff positions and be forced to operate short-staffed, which stands to have a negative impact on the visitor experience. We urge the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals to help support local business and the Cape's vital seasonal economy by approving petition 5054. Creating seasonal housing strengthens our region as a premier destination and ultimately enables our communities to thrive. Sincerely, Paul Neswicki, President and CEO of Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. That's the extent of the correspondence I received. Attorney Singer, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us before we close the hearing?
No, we appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this point, we're going to close the hearing to the public discussion and open up to the board members. Dick, what are your thoughts?
Did you say to me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading. I had some concerns, I think, before coming tonight, and I think most of my concerns have been addressed, and I think that certainly Joe's has had the experience of dealing with these employee residents that are so important for his business as well as the other businesses mentioned, to provide housing for their employees. And I know that there's been many instances where restaurants have had reduced hours and sometimes reduced days of service to the community, even in season, because of lack of employees. And it's not just here in Yarmouth, it's all over the Cape, and I think that this is a good way of supplying the housing for these seasonal employees that are such an important part of our economy, and still using the existing infrastructure rather than trying to create dormitories in other locations. I'm not sure I like the idea of it being mixed in with the tourism aspect of the community, but it's a quick fix, and I think, as Joe has recognized, the whole complexion of that strip and community is going to be changed by the addition of the sewering that's coming in the future years, and I think we're going to see some rather significant improvements to the existing facilities that are there. So that's all I have, and I'm prepared to support the motion when we have a motion.
Thank you very much, Dick. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Like I said when I first spoke, it's a laudable endeavor that you're seeking, and I think having the 1-year special permit is appropriate, and I'm happy to vote for it if a motion is made.
Okay, thank you. Barbara, what are your thoughts?
I think I'm in support of this too. I think I'm impressed with, all the thought you've put into it, and the kind of the rules and regulations around these folks will be living there, and I think it's needed. I really do think it's needed.
Okay. John?
Well, I'm in agreement with most of the board members. My concern, obviously all the local businesses are going to support this petition. My concern was the neighborhood behind it and what happened over the last year there, if there was anything at all. But it seems like Mr. Marama has addressed them as they have come up and addressed them personally, which, I appreciate. So, if you continue to do that and be on top of it, and it seems like you are, I would be in favor of the petition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I do want to commend Mr. Marama for his efforts, and he certainly has a lot of experience, and we're lucky to have someone who's in this position to provide this service. There's no doubt about it that we have an employee housing crisis on Cape Cod during season. The rents, when you can find them, are astronomical, and there's really nowhere to live, even if you find a place. So our businesses are in dire need of this service. Now, this is not a long-term solution. And that's why one reason is we're only issuing 1-year special permits, so we revisit these every year. I don't think it's the purpose and intent of Yarmouth to make this a long-term solution. I think when they abut up to residents in the neighborhoods, whether it's the neighborhood out back or whether it's in any neighborhood in the town, and that's anywhere, Okay, we have to take their concerns very seriously. I think Joe has done a good job here. I have no doubt that he's going to do what he says he's going to do because he's got a long track record with us dating back many years, and he's never let us down. But these are granted on a case-by-case basis. And that doesn't mean just because we grant one here for 100% and we granted one for Parker's River Motel 100%, that we're going to grant the next one for 100%. So I don't want there to be any illusions or doubts about that. I am planning on supporting this petition. I do think that they meet the criteria of the bylaw. And I do think they will do a good job. And I am very impressed that Joe is willing to give his personal cell phone to any neighbor.
Can we publish it in the minutes?
Well, you know, I do want to make a comment because I remember we were down in the inflatable park and we had a meeting down there with the board, and we had a meeting with residents and everybody, and Joe was giving his cell phone to all the neighbors right around that. So he's got a history of doing that. So when he says to someone tonight, I'll give you my personal cell phone, I already know he's going to do that because he doesn't want the problems. He wants to meet it head on, and he's going to run a tight ship over there. So again, I do think they meet the criteria for the special permit. I'm comfortable that there won't be any substantial nuisance or undue nuisance, any detriment to the neighborhood. So on that, is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I would so move as presented tonight for the one-year special permit.
Okay. And with that, let me just ask a question here. We have a petition number 5008 that contains certain conditions. Would you incorporate those conditions into this? And Attorney Singer, are you seeking a new special permit or an amendment to the existing special permit?
We requested a new special permit because the old one was for only 1 year.
Right.
you know-
Thank you. Okay. You just answered my question. Thank you for correcting me. They're only good for a year.
Yep. Now,
okay.
to your point, the three conditions in 5008, which is it's 1 year based on the code of conduct, employee shuttle vans shall load and unload from Route 28, and if you come back for renewal, provide a list of any complaints. You know, those could certainly be reincorporated into the new decision.
We would like those. Well, I will ask the maker of the motion if he would include those in his
I would
motion.
be happy to, and I think I'm looking at a document, it doesn't say what application it was for or a date, but it lists several other things for the property manager and the 8 fully equipped kitchens and approval by the Board of Health and overnight guests prohibited. And that's, I believe, your memorandum?
That was my memorandum, and it was part of the code of conduct.
Okay. So those conditions, I would hope, would be included in the actual decision or referenced by me in the motion. I think that's probably good to have it in the motion, too.
Could we say that all previous conditions?
Well, there are some other different ones in this petition, like the 8 kitchens and the 8 sets of washers and dryers and those types of things.
You could say, if I could offer, Mr. Chairman, you could say, based on the code of conduct and the materials submitted with the application.
That's right.
Okay.
I was kind of thinking that when I said, as presented to us tonight, so I think those things were all presented to us tonight.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Excuse me.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. It is unanimous vote. Attorney Singer, I don't have to tell you that there is a 20-day appeal period that must elapse after the decision is filed with the town clerk's office. Once that appeal period has elapsed, you will take your decision, record it with the Registry of Deeds, and return proof back to this board.
Yes, sir.
And I will expect a draft decision from you.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else?
Well, thank you very much for all your time.
All right, thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Well.
Good job. Good luck. Oh, another simple one.
Okay, the next petition is petition 5055. Ekaterina and Family LLC, J. Imad, trustee of the Cedars of Lebanon Trust. Property location 1272, 1276, and 1282 Route 28 South Yarmouth. It's in a B2, it's in a zoning district B2 and road. The applicant seeks a special permit per section 411 road and H2, H6, H10, and A12 use to redevelop the property and demolish all existing 8 buildings on site and construct a gasoline filling station with 4 dispensers, overhead steel canopy, 2 fuel storage tanks, and a convenience store, coffee shop, and drive-through, and construct a separate building with 4 residential apartments on 2 floors. Good evening, gentlemen. Could you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, my name is Paul Tardif. I'm an attorney in Yarmouthport. And seated with me is Hal Chuba, who's the engineer from Chuba Engineering. And also here with us is Jay Ahmad, the principal of both of the owners of these properties. The property that we're talking about is in the B2 zoning district. It's also in the HMOD1 and the Revitalization Overlay Architectural District, and consists of 3 currently separate abutting parcels. The first is at 1272 Route 28, and which until recently was improved with a pottery store built in approximately 1930. The lot has about a little under 12,000 square feet. The structure was recently removed because we wanted to have the lot graded, and also there were trees growing through the roof of the building. So it's really this long section here. Okay, that's where 1272 would be. The second parcel is 1276 Route 28, and it's currently improved with 5 separate residential structures scattered throughout the lot, built in approximately 1936, in position so that 4 of the houses encroach into the rear setback of the property. The lot contains 21,780 square feet, and the houses are rented and have been for many years. Of the 5 residential units on the site, 1 is a 2-bedroom unit, and 4 of them are 1-bedroom dwellings for a total of 6 bedrooms on the site. The third property, and by the way, that really wraps around this way right here, leaving this piece right here, and that's 1282 Route 28, which is currently improved with a gas station and a convenience store, and also a canopy, which contains the lot contains 16,117 square feet. The canopy covers 2 gas pumps and is currently 3.1 feet away from Route 28. The lots, the rentals, and the gas station were created by a plan dated 1953, and the property at 1272 does appear on a plan in 1981, but that description is historical, dating back to 1945. The existing collective structures encroach into the front yard setback and sit 3.1 feet from Route 28, into the rear setback by several locations, but one of the structures is located 6.8 feet from the rear residential zone. The lots combined, and that is the intention, by the way, is to combine these lots, total 49,833 square feet of area. The current lot coverage is 12.2%, and the height of the tallest structure on the site is approximately 20 feet. There are currently 5 separate septic systems on the combined properties and 4 curb cuts onto Route 28. Overall, these lots are just poorly designed for today's standards, and the dated buildings are not very attractive or functional. They are functional, they're rentals, but not probably to the level we should have them at. The proposal, as Mr. Chairman, you read into the record, is to combine the 3 lots into 1 lot, first of all. The remaining structures on the lots, that would be the gas station, convenience store, the canopy, and the 5 rental units will be removed, replaced with a new, less non-conforming canopy, a building containing a drive-through coffee shop and convenience store, and a gas station with 4 pumps, and a separate building now with 4 2-bedroom dwelling units on the east side of the property over here. The combination of the lots, again, 49,833 square feet. New gas tanks on the site will consist of 2 double-wall fiberglass fuel storage tanks. Building coverage will increase from the 12.2% to 15.9%. Lot coverage is going to increase to 63.3%. The rear setback will be 47.2 feet instead of 6.8, and the front setback will be 10 feet instead of 3.1. One of the curb cuts out of the 4 will also be eliminated. We've submitted this plan to the Design Review Committee, Community and Economic Development Committee, Site Plan Review Committee, and also the Yarmouth Planning Board, who approved our plan in order for us to proceed to this board. Yarmouth Planning Board, by the way, was acting in their capacity as the Design Review Committee at that hearing when it comes to a road application like this. Now, because we're seeking a special permit, it's under Section 411. That section applies to this project that is located in the B2 zoning district and is south of Route 6. Second, and pursuant to Section 411.3.2, the Board of Appeals may grant road district development special permit approval with or without conditions, and within said special permit, the Board of Appeals may waive any portion of zoning bylaw sections 202, 203, 301, 303, 402, and 407 if the applicant can do the following. One is submit in accordance with Section 411, which we've done. Meet the criteria for the grant of a special permit. I believe that we do, and we will get to that. Complete the process of site plan review, also done. Meets the criteria for approval pursuant to Section 411.5, which I'll address momentarily, and received approval from the Planning Board, also secure already. So the way this bylaw reads is that we have 2 separate sections that we have to address. Under 411.5, it recites the criteria, and this is the criteria for both the Planning Board as well as for the Zoning Board of Appeals. The first are general criteria. And it says that all proposals shall be reviewed according to the following general criteria. The criteria are evaluated under the discretion of the Planning Board, and this is the important part, a proposal need not necessarily satisfy all criteria in order to receive the approval of any of the reviewing boards or authorities. We start with A, which is site plan review objectives pursuant to Section 103.3.1. Well, the objectives in that section are trying to make sure that we have internal circulation and egress from the site are such that traffic safety is protected, and access via minor streets servicing single-family homes is minimized. We'll have none in this case. Servicing the side roads, obviously. Reasonable use is made of building location, grading, and vegetation to reduce visibility of parking areas from public ways. Adequate access to each structure for fire and service equipment is provided. Lock boxes shall be required to ensure building and site access. That's obviously approved. Utilities and drainage serving the site provide functional service to each structure and paved area in the same manner as required for lots within a subdivision, and fire protection provisions meeting fire department regulations are provided. Again, that site plan review, the fire department has seen this, this program before. We've had 5 renderings on this project. This is the 3rd one we've taken to site plan review. This is the 2nd one before this board, just so you'll know. Drainage will comply with 304 stormwater management, and the proposed development will minimize adverse environmental impacts, which I don't think we really have any environmental concerns here other than the uses on the property. And in or abutting a residential districts, effective use is made of topography, landscaping, and building placement to maintain, to the degree reasonable, the character of the neighborhood. Now, you do have the site plan review comments. That was a hearing we had with them on June 6th of this year. Most of their comments were related to other permits or regulatory requirements. Edits were made to the plan that we actually have before you today to address design-related comments such as removal of one menu board, installation of fencing on the eastern and northern boundaries, relocation of underground infiltration, lighting over the pumps, and building design on the residential building. There were some steps that were very close to the side setback, in fact, may have been into the side setback, so those changes were made, and the plans that you have before you now have already addressed those concerns. That's A. B is the criteria, standards, and objectives of design review pursuant to section 103.3.3.1. The goals of the design review process shall be to revitalize all commercial uses south of Route 6 by improving the aesthetic quality of buildings and sites, promoting attractive and viable commercial districts, providing a process for review of all changes in land use, the appearances of structures, or the appearance of sites within the districts. The objectives are to preserve the natural and cultural patterns of the surrounding landscape, encourage incorporation of public amenities, sidewalks, bike racks, etc. Encourage clustering of buildings in large developments to retain more open space. Building is encouraged to be of style which complements and promotes traditional Cape Cod architectural styles and character with proper scale, proportion, and roof pitch. Traditional building materials are recommended, colors of a traditional usage, not designed to shock or stand out. We don't want anything yellow, I guess. Also to identify the internal parking circulation system in a manner which will reduce curb cuts. And in this case, we are doing that by removing one. Improve landscaping and traffic flow. Allow for proper turning radius of parking space. Encourage pedestrian use and access. Screen trash receptacles and minimize any accessory signage. You do have the notes from the Design Review Committee. We met with them on July 18th of this year. They were acting in an advisory committee. However, again, they have seen this project probably, I think they saw it this is their 4th time seeing this project. They were appreciative of the modifications from the last time we were there, including the relocation of the building closer to the street, because in our architectural design standards, siting is a large part of what they look at, and they encourage properties to be pushed to the front of buildings as close to the road as possible in some cases, so that it gives you that old traditional feeling of being, you know, back in the day. If you look at their architectural designs guidelines, you'll see that is part of the criteria. The vegetated buffers with irrigation, separating the residential use from the commercial use, reducing the lighting in the canopy, segregating the parking areas. Again, in this case, what we've done is, because the residential use is going to be over here on the eastern side of the property, and the building for commercial will be over here on the western side of the property, we have segregated this parking area over here for residential use, segregated some parking up in this area for the employee use, and kept the parking in the front here for the building as well. So we're not going to have as much crossing. There is a crosswalk here, but that'll be mostly for the employees and not for residents, which I know was a major concern last time. Ultimately, the Design Review Committee, again in advisory status, felt that all the siting and the building strategies were either not applicable, in other words, it just didn't happen in this case, or they met the design standards. C is the goals, purposes, and objectives of this section, which is 411. The intent of road is to provide a carefully controlled mechanism that promotes business opportunities through the use and reuse of business properties while preserving and enhancing the ambiance of our historic community. Again, to sum this section up, it is basically a balancing act where in exchange for appropriate and tasteful design of new structures in this zoning district, zoning requirements are relaxed as a incentive, if you will. So it encourages development and redevelopment, again, to be mostly in accordance with the Yarmouth architectural and site design standards, which I think you have. And in this case, again, I think that we have met that balancing act when you can take a look at what we've proposed and all the changes we've made over the years for this property. And the style that has resulted is the property that you have in front of you in the plans there. And you do have elevations on both buildings from all four sides and landscaping and all those plans. D is the economic benefits of the proposed development. My client is going to be spending quite a bit of money on this property. The economic benefits were submitted to you in the form of a memorandum, I believe, with the application, but again, up to 10 employees will be there. Currently, there are 2. The septic system will be, there'll be 1 septic system instead of 5, which is, and even though the sewer is coming down, we will install the septic until that happens. That's not a concern. We're not wasting anyone's time waiting for that to happen. The use of the property for some continued residential rentals is a key part of this at this point in time. As the last hearing you heard about the impossibility of securing rentals, much less something you can afford. So these are not the biggest rentals in the world. They're not going to be affordable deed restricted. However, they're going to be pretty close to the market rate anyway. Because of their size and location. The other thing is there's going to be 2 bedrooms in each of the units, 4 units, so 2 people per bedroom at the most. We would consider a condition that you cap it at 16 people in the building. We have no problem with that. We don't plan on overloading it. Our guess is that we'll not ever reach that, but if that is something that you want to see to control that and the parking, we are willing to do that. The tax revenue and benefits from the project will also be evident. Currently, the properties combined are just over $1 million in assessments. Mr. Ahmad is going to spend probably 4 times that amount in building this project. We understand that we've been told over and over again that doesn't mean that it's going to be assessed at $4 million, although I'm sure the assessor would love it. But even at $2 million, that's going to double the tax base on this property alone. E would be the recommendations of the site plan review team and the Community and Economic Development Committee. You have both of those. We've been to all of those boards. Supplementary road district standards. Again, we're talking about architectural styles, Old Cape Cod style, historic seaside village, colonial, or Old Cape Cod style, which shall have their common and ordinary meaning. The plans evaluated in the context of findings, objectives, criteria set forth in 411, reproduction style, aesthetics, again, the balancing of what you're getting versus what you're giving. So you look at all that first, those are the general criteria. Then section 2 is the mandatory criteria. and the board must find that the road district development satisfies the following criteria. One is the criteria set forth for the grant of a special permit under 103. In this case, we contend that the proposal will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing use of the property. The existing use of the property are 5 rentals, a gas station, a convenience store. We're basically just going to modernize that, add the drive-through window, which is the modern way, new drainage, new septic, new vegetation, better control of the traffic on and off the site. We don't think that there will be any undue hazard, nuisance, or congestion based on this plan. The second is that the goals, purposes, and objectives of a road district bylaw would be accomplished. I think that's sort of a duplication of what we've already done in the general criteria. That the project as a whole substantially accomplishes the purposes of the underlying zoning bylaw. Well, again, we are seeking some relief for this project. We couldn't do everything and meet every single section of the bylaw. But if you look at what we're asking for, and I will go through those momentarily, most of them, if not all, but I'd say most of them are minor in nature. One probably has a little bit more discussion to it, and we will get to that in a second. D is that the benefits to the neighborhood, district, and town from the road district development's approval outweigh the effects of any deviation or relief from the requirements. Again, this is looking at the balancing of the benefits to the town, which we believe far outweighs the effects of a deviation from the bylaw. We have listened to the town boards numerous times and made changes on each occasion. We've had a lot of input from the abutters, usually at meetings such as these, but we've listened and made changes accordingly. I think that what you have here is probably the best plan out of everything that we've done, which takes into account everyone else's concerns. And then finally, the architectural and site plans of the proposed development plan is as previously approved by the planning board. This is the same plan that you have. So I want to go through some of the things that we're looking for relief. Again, this is one special permit. It's a road special permit that addresses all of these. One is the building setback, the front setback. In this zoning district, 30 feet from the front setback is required. But under road, and because of the siting requirements under the architectural design, again, the whole point is to make this look good. And so one of their siting requirements is to move it as close to the road as possible, which we've done. We've still moved it. It's 10 feet away from the front boundary line, which is still better than the canopy that is sitting 3.1 feet from the road now, but it does give you that better feel. And it also works in this case because we want to put parking on the side and the rear, and to accommodate the drive-through lane, we want to put that in the back as well, keep it off the road. Second is parking within the front setback. Now, we do not have any parking spaces depicted on here that are in front of the building. However, the bylaw does read that you cannot have parking spaces within the front setback. And the front setback calls into question these two spaces right here, which are within the front setback. So although to the side of the building, they are lining up with the building being moved to the front of the property. So I don't think there's any problem with those.
Where was that again?
Yep, right here, there's a space here and a space here.
Oh, okay.
And they are in the front setback, even though they're to the side of the building, which is allowed, but the front setback is the issue. So we would be looking for relief from that as well. We have arguably 2 in-lot trees, where 3 are required based on the number of parking spaces that are going to be put on here. One here, one there as well. But because we're segregating these lots, as we said, employee over here, residential over here, and customer over here, really, if you're looking at the parking spaces, you're only looking at 2 required anyway. And I would argue that this one may count as well. I think other people would argue. This one could as well, because it's jutting out. So If we need 3, and if we do not have 3, I think that is a small request as part of the road application. I'm going to skip the drive-through buffer for the time being. I'm going to come right back to it, I promise. Go to the front landscape buffer. Again, the front landscape buffer, we're only dealing with 10 feet. You can see the 10, here's the dark line that we are going to green up with vegetation. The sidewalk is actually over here, well into the state highway. We plan on leaving this green. That's what it is currently. It's all greened up with just grass, I believe. We plan to leave that in case the state ever wants their land back. But that sidewalk is currently here, extends along the road on both sides. So we have no plan to touch that, obviously. But because we can't meet that front landscape buffer, we'd need relief for it. But I think it's still going to look beautiful. Then we get to some of the uses. We're going to have multifamily use here, 4 two-bedroom apartments. Again, we have that use going on currently. It's grandfathered, and we have 5. And we're going to take those 5 separate buildings out of there and 5 septic systems out and put 1 in. The gas station use, although it's pre-existing, we are expanding, so that's one thing we're going to need relief for as well. We're also planning on, because there are going to be 2 different businesses in this building. One's going to be the coffee shop, the Dunkin' Donuts, and the second one is going to be the convenience store. The plan is to put a sign on this side and over the door here, the entranceway as you come from the gas pumps. That's two signs. We also have a freestanding sign over here. So we would need relief to have the 2 sides. If you're coming from the bridge this way, you'll be able to see this one. You'll probably pass this one. So we would need relief for that. And finally, let's get to the drive-through issue. So because we have the coffee shop and because they usually require these drive-throughs to be included, the drive-through, as you can see, pickup window, we've wrapped it around to the other side of the building. We initially had it on this side of the building. We have now had the pickup window placed way over here. The order board is it's right here. Not here, way down here. So this is the closest order board that we're going to have, and the pickup is here. We have shown 12 cars depicted on here. We only need 10 to show a queuing line. And I want to go through some of the distances because the section 301.8 deals with drive-through facilities. It does require 10 stacking spaces. It talks about outdoor service facilities. And in parentheses, it says including menu boards, speakers, etc. It says that those shall be a minimum of 100 feet from any residential use or zone. Use or zone. So we do have a residential zone right here. We have an unimproved lot here. And we have an improved lot here on the end of Briar. This is Briar Lane, the road's here. And we have put distances from the order board to the corner of the property, which is the residential zone, and then all the way to the house itself. You can see those distances are significant. We have 142 feet from the nearest developed residential property line, I don't want anyone to think that I'm forgetting about this. Okay, we are about 50 feet away from this residential lot that's not improved and probably won't be. But from this one, most affected neighbor, 142 feet, and also 193 feet to the house. So we are still within 50 feet of meeting our requirement for 100 feet from the residential zone. However, the impact on the developed lot will be minor, and we have moved that all the way this way, as far west as we could. We also shrunk the building a little bit by another 100 square feet to try and get it further away, which is why it's become 6 feet better from the last proposal. And that's significant when you think about volume and the way it travels, okay? We do have those menu boards that can be, they will be adjustable, so if it's too loud, we'll be able to bring it down. We are installing an acoustic fence along 8 foot high along the back of this entire property, which is going to catch a lot of that sound, not to mention all of these plantings, 348 different plantings going onto this property. So that's what we'd be looking for, is that drive-through window right there. And that is based off of a lot of the input, not only from planning board, but also from this board as well, to wrap that around to the other side. The drive-through facilities that we have in town here, and I think I've got them all, but I don't know if I got them all, but maybe you can tell me.
Did you have to visit all of the places?
Yes, I had to go to McDonald's, yeah. They have 2 drive-through lanes there, so I had to go twice. No. I looked at the plans, and again, some of these are road applications, and some are not. Some were just developed, and some were, some went through road. The McDonald's drive-through lane is 35 feet from the residential zone. There's 2 lanes there. And that was an 89 decision.
There's one since then, too, for the second.
It was there long before.
Yeah.
But there, if I could, I just want to read some of this language, because this is very good language. This was in the decision from 89. Again, not a road application, so you're not going to hear those road requirements, but it said, the proposed changes, they were knocking the building down and rebuilding it, will not create a change in use, as the locus will be used for the same purpose. The proposed changes will be an overall improvement of the site. By virtue of the construction of a more aesthetically pleasing building, which is more in keeping with the established character of the neighborhood and the town, that's McDonald's, that you have today. 2 is elimination of 1 curb cut. That sounds familiar. The improvement of traffic flow control both on and off the site. 4, elimination of the existing storm drain problems. They had some collection of water near the drive-through window. I don't know if we have that big of a problem, but we're going to be addressing that as well in the plan. Installation of an up-to-date Title V septic system. And finally, a substantial upgrading of the landscaping on the entire site, both in terms of design and density of plantings, which will greatly enhance the aesthetic appearance of the site as a whole. The Dunkin' Donuts at Forest Ave, on the corner of Forest Ave and Route 28, that drive-through is actually 53 feet from the residential zone right behind it. One of the comments in that zoning decision was that the drive-through actually reduces the need for a lot of parking demand, because you're not parking the car, you're in the line. It's almost acting as if it was a parking space. The Dunkin' Donuts in West Yarmouth, that drive-through where it peaks in the back is 53 feet from the residential zone. And the Walgreens. Now, the Walgreens is a different animal, because that was a road application. And they have double windows as well. That's 35 feet from a residential property, who at the time was owned by the Secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So, very interesting. But 35 feet. So, as you can see, and I don't know if I missed any of those drive-through windows, did I?
Well, there was a second one added at McDonald's more recently than that 89.
And I think, yeah, and you know what, I have to take a look and see if that got the 53 may have been, the McDonald's, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the 89. You think it was after?
I think the second
Yeah, it
window
was
was
after.
after that.
Yeah.
So, but I still think the 35 feet is accurate on that. I'll have to take a look, but I think it's close.
I think it's close.
I think
Yeah.
it is.
It's close.
The other requirement under 411 is that the commercial has to be at least equal to or greater than the residential component. In this case, residential, the commercial space is 3,890 square feet. The residential is 3,755, about 49% of the floor areas. The gas station, we plan to operate from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. The drive-through from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. so we're going to shut that down a little earlier. There's been some suggestion in the past that the number of requests for relief is somehow a factor when you're dealing with a 411, 411 road application. That is not recited specifically in the bylaw. I know that there are, some will say that it's substantially more detrimental because you have all of these forms of relief that we need. But again, when you look at what we're asking for, one of them, the drive-through, is a significant issue. I would say that the other ones are minor in nature, very minor in nature. When you look at some of the other road applications that have been approved, you can see that it's probably pretty much in line. The first one was Shields MRI. That was the very first one in 2000. They only sought one form of relief. They were going to put the building right into the setback by about 10 feet, and that's what they went in there for relief. Granted, that's fine. The Walgreens was in 2006, and that was the old Arsenault Sunoco that turned into that, and a bunch of other properties. They sought 9 forms of relief in that case. The next one was down on Commercial Street, Witten Landscaping. He had 2 projects down there. The first one was on right where his offices are in 2011. He had 5 forms of relief, including 4 that would have been variances, and that had to do with the residents above, affordable housing, inclusionary zoning, that type of thing. And then he did the second one down the street on the corner, and that had 2 forms of relief, again, employee housing in a B1 zoning district, and the lot size as well. So this is in line, realistically, with those road applications provided. So I think that's all I'm going to do for now. I'd like to hear some of the comments, and I'd like an opportunity before we do anything to maybe address some of them before we close the public if we could. But I thank you for your time so far.
Thank you very much, Attorney Tardif. We are going to go to the board for some questions. Barbara, do you have questions for the petitioner?
I think my question would be about this comment and memo from the Conservation Commission. That they
And
haven't.
I'll tell you, while you're there, since you got that, I'm going to read that into the record.
Okay.
Call from conservation, and then we'll come back to your question regarding that.
Yep.
I have a memo dated October 26, 2023 from Catherine Brooks, Conservation Agent, regarding petition 5055. In reference to comment 7 from the site plan review on June 6, 2023, no stormwater management permit has been submitted to the Conservation Commission. Comment 7 states, based on the grading and planting plans, it appears the entire site will be disturbed, which is over 1 acre of disturbance, and would require a stormwater management permit from the Conservation Commission. Additionally, the conservation comment from site plan review reiterates, if total land disturbance is greater than 1 acre, a stormwater management permit is required. Please submit the stormwater application or provide proof that the land disturbance is less than 1 acre.
We plan to file.
Yeah, I would like you to respond to that.
Yeah, we plan to file if this is successful.
You plan to file?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, Barbara, at this time?
No, I just had a concern about that.
Okay. John?
I don't really have many questions. I will say this plan is substantially better than, the first one we saw. You've addressed a lot of the issues. I can't remember all of them, but I guess the only question I would have, though, is do we have any regulations on how close a residential building can be to a gas pump? There's nothing, I didn't see anything. I was looking for.
I don't think so.
There's nothing, right? So, it looks like you're about, what do you think you are? About 35 feet from there?
Yeah,
Something like that? Yeah.
Yeah,
More than that, probably, yeah. There's 5 regulations on the tanks, the underground fuel tanks, and believe it or not, you can go up to 1 foot from a building if you don't have a basement. If you have a full basement, you just have to be far enough so you don't impede into the structure of the building. But as far as regulations, there are no regulations on the pumps.
Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Dick, do you have some questions for the
I
petitioner?
do. I think I have a comment first, and I want to compliment the petitioner on the appearance of the buildings, significantly better than the last plans, and I think more in keeping with what the road bylaw had in mind of being something that's a little bit more characteristic of the community. I do have a question about the parking for the convenience store. And you say those are 2 spots up front that are in the setback, but were there 2 or 3 others along here? I can't determine whether the dots are the spaces or are they going perpendicular to the building?
They're perpendicular to the building. Yeah, I think there are 6. Does that say 6?
There's 6.
Are there 6 there?
6 there, yeah.
Including 1 handicap, yes.
Okay,
There's
so
6 in the
there'd be
front.
a door on that side and then another door in the front
Yes,
into the convenience store?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the walkway that goes out
Goes
to
all the way
the...
to the door, to the front.
Yeah, okay. So that's the door we see here, right?
On the elevations?
Yeah, on the
Yes, correct,
elevation, yeah,
yeah.
okay. And you're comfortable with their ability to come in and back out without interfering with any of the pump stations? That's
Yes.
quite a distance, it's 35 feet, I guess, from the
Yeah,
building.
it's more than required for the travel lane, so yeah, we're very happy with that.
So they have to have that. And I have to say, I'm impressed with the relocation of the drive-through. It seems to make a lot more sense. You've got, spaces for 12 cars on site. I know that it's close in the back, but it's nowhere near as close as what we approved for the McDonald's and their second. And you are supplying the acoustical fencing, which is, I think, probably a big improvement for those abutters, too.
Could be, yeah.
And the volume control, I think, is important to take that into consideration, because that was the big concern of the neighbors out behind the McDonald's. I think it's obvious that there were a great deal of thought went into this application, and significant improvement probably at every painful step that you took to get there. So I'm impressed with the overall plan, and I think the appearance factor from Route 28 will be absolutely tremendously significant, and I think a real real benefit to the community. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dick. Anthony, do you have some questions for the petitioner?
I don't have any questions for the petitioner. I do just want to thank Attorney Tardif for the very comprehensive and historical.
Sorry.
No. I appreciate it. I know you're across from the library, but you're giving us a run for your money here, so I appreciate it. But the project certainly, I can't speak to what was before the board because I wasn't sitting here at the time, but certainly what has been presented now is really interesting and will make a difference, and I appreciate it, the thoughtfulness that has gone into it.
Thank you very much. I have some correspondence from some town boards. The first one is the planning board, a certificate of approval of a road plan dated August 30th, 2023. It is hereby certified by the planning board of the town of Yarmouth that at a duly called and properly posted and advertised public hearing of said planning board held on August 16th, 2023, the board voted as follows. On a motion by Jim Saban and seconded by Joanne Crowley, and amended by Chris Vincent and seconded by Joanne Crowley, the planning board voted 4 in favor and 1 against to approve road application 2023-1 as presented with the following conditions. Chris Vincent, Joanne Crowley, Ken Smith, and Jim Saban voting in favor. Susan Britta voting against. The conditions were, number one, the 8-foot acoustical fence shall have a STC sound transmission class rating of 26. I presume that's the 8-foot fence in the rear of the property. And number two, maximum 60 decibel reading 4 feet from the order speaker. The plans and the applications for the requested action were filed with your office on July 10th, 2023. And then it just goes on to show what was submitted with it. Let me just look. Okay. These are things that have been submitted by you tonight. A note to the applicant, approved by the planning board does not grant zoning relief. Application must be made to the Board of Appeals. Note to the planning board, approval by the planning board must be noted on the plan to the Board of Appeals as an endorsement per zoning bylaw, section 411.6. Note to the Board of Appeals, planning board approval is a recommendation to the Board of Appeals that the above referenced zoning relief be granted in the form of special permit as outlined in zoning bylaw section 411.3.2. Mandatory criteria of Board of Appeals approval are outlined in sections 411.5 paragraph 2. A true copy attest. Joanne Crowley, Chair, Yarmouth Planning Board. The next, I guess it's a memo from the, yes, this is another one from the Yarmouth Planning Board. No, to Yarmouth Planning Board from Community and Economic Development Committee, dated August 2nd, 2023. The Yarmouth Community and Economic Committee recently met on July 25th, 2023, discussed the road application submitted to the Planning Board on July 10th, 2023 for the properties located at 1272, 1276, and 1282 Route 28. Project update presented to the committee by project proponents, noting that the economic benefits of the project, job creation, new construction, housing, and related tax revenue, were similar to those previously presented. Based on this information, the committee voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstaining. Peter Slovak abstained to recommend the project as presented to the planning board. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and please let us know if you have any questions. And that was from Community and Economic Development Committee. And that's what I have in my packet.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
you also should have some comments from a Ms. Audrey Pitts. You might have received an email later today.
let me see. I'll try to pull that one up.
After the planning board.
Well, I get my printer for something. I'm not sure. If you get printing,
It's in the planning board comments.
okay, 5054.
It was attached to it.
Do I have it? I'm not seeing.
It's uploaded. It's under 5055, letter of opposition, 6 pages, I think.
There's a 6-page letter of opposition. Who's the letter from?
Audrey Pitts?
Who?
3 page.
3-page letter. Oh, wait a second here. Let me look.
Is it?
Okay, hold on. I have it in front of me. I'm going to read it off my computer. That's okay. To Town of Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals from Audrey Pitts, homeowner and abutter, 15 Briar Lane. South Yarmouth. I don't know if Briar Lane actually abuts this property, but it is frustrated to bring the same issues up repeatedly and to have no response to them by any of the members of the boards to which they've been addressed. In particular, I'd like to emphasize here the following subsections of the Town of Yarmouth Road bylaw, which states that if a proposal may cause any of a certain list of conditions, it is not eligible for road designation. Town of Yarmouth Road bylaw 411.3.3.1, provided such use is not hazardous by reasons of potential fire, explosion, radiation, or injurious or detrimental to the neighborhood by reason of dust, odor, fumes, noise, vibration, or other noxious features, or harmful to the surface or groundwater. The proposed complex will either cause or exacerbate the conditions that I have underlined. This is known. Moreover, new information shows that the situation regarding groundwater is even worse than what abutters had thought when we initially raised the point. Specifically, the existing gas station at this property has had several toxic spills since the 1990s, which were allowed by the town to continue without remediation for quite some time. Eventually, the state DEP got involved and issued remediation orders, which were ignored for such a long time that the DEP had issued further complaints. The latest spill, which contaminated soil 20 feet down and is now being mediated, that work is still ongoing. What is newly alarming is that the DEP has confirmed that, one, all of the spills at this property have been above ground, the seriousness of which is indicated by the fact that one spill from the 1990s required 49.7 tons of soil to be removed. Two, that the latest spill is from regular use of the gas pumps, not the underground tanks, which indicates both that it's endemic and that the replacement of the underground tanks would have any effects on such spills in the future. Won't have any effect on such spills in the future. And three, the area where the spills occurred is a medium yield aquifer, i.e. an aquifer recharge area, which the DEP has designated as both a sole source aquifer and a GW.1 priority cleanup. The DEP has confirmed that the latter designation is drinking water. In other words, these spills have been contaminating our drinking water for decades. The owner and the town have been lackadaisical about remediation. Now the owner wants to expand the number of pumps here. The town is currently under pressure and working very hard to lessen the contamination of its aquifers and shores. Yet this ongoing source of documented pollution raises no concern. At the very least, the town should refuse any attempt by the owners to expand the source of the contamination and deny the addition of more gas pumps. In fact, since the proposal involves the merger of three adjacent lots, including the one the existing gas station sits on, the latter thereby loses its designation of continued use. The whole project must legally be considered new build. The town must then give serious consideration to whether a gas station is advisable for this site at all, given that it's located over a sole source aquifer, which has already contaminated, which I think the word Ben should there, which has already been contaminated several times over the years. An additional concern related to the town's water supply has to do with stormwater. The owners had stated in their application that they were going to disturb less than the 9,000 square feet that would have required them to also obtain a stormwater management permit. However, a new memo from the Conservation Commission published on the town website states that the project will disturb the entire lot, thus over the limit, making the stormwater permit a prerequisite. Given how overbuilt and paved over the site will be if built as proposed, it's reasonable to question whether a suitably efficient stormwater drainage system can be added to it. There have also been concerns raised about the placement of the septic tanks under heavily traveled car lanes, the proximity of their drain fields to abutters' property, and the proximity of certain plantings to wastewater systems. The project is taking 3 lots, which currently are at least 40% lawn and trees, and turning them into an almost completely paved over area with several buildings and a fringe of trees along the edges, destroying almost all of the permeability of this land. All these issues simply add to the inadvisability of this plan in relation to the sustainability of our surface and groundwater. There are many other facets of this project that any reasonable person would classify as hazardous and noxious. Example, the very nature of gas stations themselves with their flammable materials and carcinogenic emissions. Drive-through with its lanes extended along the whole rear of the property, which will bring the constant stop and go traffic with its noxious fumes and noises well under the legal distance limit from the butters at all. Rather than re-enumerate them here, I am also enclosing a letter to the town planning board from last year, which goes over the objections in more detail. All of the points I raised in this letter still stand. I urge the zoning board of appeals to reject this project. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I could just address that right now.
yes, sure, certainly.
Thank you. So my client purchased that gas station in the year 2000. All right. There were already some contamination instances prior. There may have been one or two after. He is currently remediating everything on that site. He has been with Edge Environmental Consulting and Engineering for years. I have a letter from them. And I'll read it and then I'll submit a copy, but it says, the site located at 1282 Main Street, South Yarmouth, is in full compliance with 310 CMR 40.000, the Mass Contingency Plan. That's MCP. The MCP is the environmental regulation that governs contaminated sites in Massachusetts. Currently, only one monitoring well has groundwater in it, which exceeds the applicable groundwater standards. The concentration of gasoline constituents is near the current standards. So basically, there's a monitoring well. They test quarterly. Mr. Ahmad pays for that to be done quarterly. As part of this plan, if he wanted to develop this site, he would have to file something called a release abatement measure plan, which will explain how they're going to go about taking out the old site, putting in the new one. Page 2 of our plans have a detailed explanation of how that plan is going to be addressed. And I have that letter for you, but to say in this letter that Mr. Ahmad has been lackadaisical about remediation is unfair. It's not like you go into the ground with a spoon and start scooping it out until you're done. That's the way that these remediations are done, is that they have monitoring sites, they have testing, and that is ongoing as we speak. We are this close to getting it completely clean. The spills weren't coming from the tanks, but we're going to put in double-sided tank, double-wall tanks anyway to protect that so it'll never happen again. I'd like to submit that letter if I could, and I don't know who to send it. Mr. Chairman, who should I submit that to?
Why don't you submit that to Dolores, and she'll stamp that as an exhibit for the record.
Mr. Chairman, I see Mr. Mantoni has the proverbial stamp.
Oh, well, then please submit that to Mr. Mantoni. He's
Okay.
got the stamp, okay?
Thank you.
I just add a little bit of background too. I had about 7.5 years on a water quality advisory committee in the town of Yarmouth years ago with Ralph Sapola. And since then, I kind of keep an eye on a lot of the progress that's been made over the years. And one of the things that I'd just say off the top of my head is that this area is not in a zone of contribution to the public water supply. And that's important to point out.
Thank you very much.
Could you just let us know the
Anything
date
else?
on that?
That is all the correspondence that I have. Is there anything else, Dolores?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Want to go to her?
Yeah, that's good.
Is there any other questions from the board to the petitioner?
You want to see it?
Seeing none. Attorney Tardif, is there anything else that you would like to add at this time?
At this time, no, I would like to hear the public comment and maybe be allowed to address if possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to go to the public. So anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this petition, please come to the microphone, identify yourselves, and tell us who you are. Identify yourselves, excuse me, and tell us your comments. That's what I meant to say. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Brian McGowan. I live on Coview Drive in South Yarmouth, and I have more of a comment than more than anything. And my wife and I, we've moved our family down here. We've been on the Cape for many, many years, and the proposal I really support. Mainly is to improve that area. I walk my dog down there all the time, and little by little, the strip malls, they're all vacant now. I'm just trying to encourage more business to move into the area, and hopefully that new business that Jay is looking to put in will attract other businesses to some of those strip malls. So I don't know if you go down there at night, but when I do take the dog for a walk, there's nothing open. And I think if you try to revitalize that area, it will improve more tax bases for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else care to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing none. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this petition?
Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Attorney Reed.
Good evening remotely, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. I'm Attorney David Reed from South Yarmouth, and I represent again tonight Nancy and Scott Rayburn, who are the owners of 27 and 28 Briar Lane. Those are the two residentially zoned lots immediately behind this property. 28 contains a home, in fact, the home where Nancy grew up, attended the DY school system, and hopes to return to in her retirement. The other lot at 27 is not developed, but could very well be at some time in the future, but it is certainly a residentially zoned lot. As was indicated by the petitioner, the road bylaw is a bit of a trade-off, but it's not just trading off a chance for architectural review in exchange for relaxation of the zoning bylaw requirements. It's an exchange for specific types of redevelopment or development to achieve certain goals. As indicated in 411.1 of the zoning bylaw, that's the introduction to the road bylaw, it says that all developments must be consistent with the Yarmouth Architectural and Site Design Standards, which were adopted specifically to implement this zoning bylaw. Consistently throughout those standards is the notion that we should have sites where people stop and can visit more than one location at a time. They're designed to promote pedestrian-oriented amenities and uses. Now, how did we get to this bylaw? Where did it come from? Many of you may recall that quite a few years ago, we commissioned a company called the Bluestone Group to do a study of Route 28, particularly, to find out why it was developed the way it was and why we weren't getting the development that we'd hoped for. Their conclusion, as I recall, I don't remember what year it was, Dick might, was that one of the major flaws on our section of Route 28 is that it didn't have any downtown. It didn't have any center for the town. And so there was no place for people to think of as a destination. In response to that, we had the Route 28 Task Force, which was, could encourage aesthetic improvements and functions along Route 28, and did a good job with that for many years. But we also passed the Village Center bylaws, which chose not to find one single center of town, but to use the existing centers along Route 28, 3 or 4, depending on which version you looked at. And then the road bylaw was a mechanism by which those sites could either be redeveloped or developed if they weren't already, as well as the land in between each of the centers, to promote these destination locations. The standards that we refer to were adopted by the planning board after public hearings and things, and they are now the regulations that implement the road bylaw. One of the goals, in fact, the first stated goal in those standards, is that it's under the heading of siting strategies, was that these improvements and sites that were benefiting from the relaxed standards of the road bylaw should contribute to the village streetscapes, particularly incorporating such things as traditional village design, pedestrian scale amenities, parks, plazas, and gathering spaces, etc. And I would ask how this site achieves any of those. In fact, can a gas station ever achieve any of those? It's a inherently vehicle-centric use. A self-serve gas station and a drive-through coffee shop are not in any stretch of the imagination intended to achieve a pedestrian-oriented development. They can't be, and they aren't. In fact, if anything, they're the opposite. The Dunkin' Donuts is not a traditional coffee shop. It's not some place where people are going to stop and sit, chat with their friends, and socialize while they drink their coffee. It's a drive-through shop. If you look at the floor plans, there isn't even a single table and chair proposed. The self-serve gas station certainly isn't pedestrian-oriented or friendly. And the convenience store, candidly, is not intended for pedestrian customers. It's intended to service the customers who are there at the gas station. Now, some people might walk in who are there nearby, but that's not the focus of the shop. It's an in-and-out, grab-and-go convenience store. I would respectfully suggest that that combination of uses is not at all what the road bylaw was intended to achieve. One of the other specific standards in the road bylaw and in the regulations promulgated by the planning board requires that loading areas and delivery areas be shielded from public view, that they be located, quote, outside the primary visual corridors of the site. If you look at the site plan for this property, the place where the 60-foot-long gas tanker truck is going to pull up every week or so, I don't know how often, is right in front of the first bumps. It's located about 20 to 25 feet from Route 28, shielded by absolutely nothing except the buffer that's in the state highway layout. The loading area for the store and the restaurant, the coffee shop, is located even in front of that. There's a hatched area located forward of where the tanker truck will stop. And that also is right out in plain sight, not shielded from any view or from any vistas. Now, why does that matter? It shows that they can't comply with some of the requirements for this site, for this district. And the reason they can't, in my opinion, is because they're trying to cram too much onto this one location. They're proposing 4 enterprises: a rental residential development for 4 units, a retail store, a gas station, and the drive-through coffee shop. We suggest that that's simply too much to try and get all on one site, and that's why they have all the other problems that they've been addressing tonight. But it's also important to remember that the standards and the criteria for your approval are not limited to the view from Route 28. The architectural and site design standards also require that you consider the impact on the residential neighborhoods behind it. It specifically says among the goals that the project should, quote, respect the scale and character of residential neighborhoods that adjoin commercial uses, close quote, and that it minimize negative impacts from on-site activities to adjacent uses. One of my client's principal objections has always been the travel lane and the drive-through lane at the rear of their building, the rear of their site, closest to our property. As Mr. Tardif indicated, Section 301.8 requires that the outdoor service facilities, the drive-through facilities and all of its components, be located 100 feet from a residential lot or district, and this is both, a residential districts behind it. It is a residential district, and they are residential uses. Reference was made to several other drive-throughs that are less than 100 feet. The McDonald's on Route 28 was originally built in that building in 1990. There was a much smaller McDonald's there before that, but it was rebuilt and expanded onto 2 lots in 1990. That's when the drive-up was installed. The Dunkin' Donuts at Forest Road was built in 1983. And the Walgreens that was approved under a road permit was in 2001. But Section 301.8, which requires the 100-foot separation, was not passed into law until the April town meeting in 2007, after all of those other sites that were referenced were already in existence. As Mr. Neese pointed out, there was an additional variance granted to McDonald's in 2021, when it was expanded to 2 lanes. I won't address how the board came to that conclusion, but that was done by variance for a pre-existing, non-conforming site. I suspect, and you all would know better than I, because I'm not here 2 nights a month like you are, I suspect that this is the first time since 2007 that you've been asked to approve a new drive-through that actually abutted a residential property. Maybe that's not the case, but I'm not aware of any others. There are certainly other drive-throughs that have been approved, but I don't think there's any others that come within the scope of 301.8 in the sense that they abut residentially zoned properties until now. And yet on what might be viewed as the maiden voyage, if you will, of 301.8, we have an applicant who's asking for less than half of the setback that this new bylaw requires, 49.7 feet from the adjoining residential property. Why are these residents of Briar Lane not entitled to the protection of this bylaw? Wasn't this bylaw, if you read it, passed exactly for this situation? Exactly. For residential properties that adjoin commercial property where they seek to add a drive-through facility. And if this is exactly the person that the bylaw is designed to protect, why aren't they going to be protected by this bylaw in this occasion? Section 411.5, subparagraph 2C, under mandatory criteria, requires that the relief you grant and the project you approve must substantially accomplish the purposes of the underlying zoning. Substantially accomplish the purposes of the underlying zoning. The underlying zoning in this respect mandates 100-foot separation between the menu board, the speakers, the drive-up facilities themselves, to any residentially zoned or used property. Not 50 feet, 100 feet. This is not a case where you have a pre-existing use. There's no drive-through there now. It's not a case where they're hampered by the existence of an existing building that forces them to be closer than the 100 feet. They're clearing the site to the ground. They could design it any way they wanted. And it's not a case where they're, say, 98 or 99 feet from the property, where they just need a little bit of help. This is a case where they've designed the site on their own, from scratch, to be less than half the distance it's supposed to be from the property. Now, night after night, you hear residential neighbors who are near commercial property complaining that they don't want this business activity in their backyard or near their backyard. And the common response to that is, if you buy a property that's next to a commercial property, you got to expect there's going to be commercial activity there. That's the way it is. But I suggest that there's a flip side to that coin. If my clients, as the residential owners, are required to expect commercial property to be used in commercial natures next to them, aren't they also entitled to expect that that commercial operation will conform to the regulations of the commercial district and not come to you and ask for a 50% dispensation from the one protection that they're concerned about? perhaps the ultimate criteria, and Mr. Tardif went through all the different elements, but perhaps the ultimate criteria for your judgment tonight is in section 411.5, subparagraphs 1F7. And it's to ask you whether the benefits of the project to the neighborhood, district, and town outweigh the detriments, the adverse impacts. Not from where we stand. Currently, my client has adjacent to her home and to her property a row of trees and some quaint little cottages. They're not in the best of shape, but they're not a problem to anybody in the residential neighborhood. What's proposed is to replace that with a traffic lane going around the back of the building only 25 feet from her property. The menu board and ordering station and the cars queuing and waiting to order and placing their orders less than 50 feet from her property. And they will be arriving, according to the information provided by the applicant, at their peak hour of 6 o'clock in the morning, continuing till 8 o'clock at night. There are currently, from my client's perspective, 2 gas pumps, 2 stations, I guess I should say, that are about 110 feet away from her property. They propose 4, twice as many, only 50 feet away from her property. So twice as many, half the distance. And those 4 pumps, stations, will be covered by a 20.5-foot tall canopy covering 2,200 square feet of area, larger than most homes in the residential neighborhood. It's true, they propose an 8-foot acoustic fence along the rear property line. But how much protection does an 8-foot fence provide when you're looking up at a 20-foot tall canopy and 2 31-foot tall buildings? It'll help, but it's not enough, and it's not a replacement for what they need. From our perspective, this is not a net improvement. The benefits do not outweigh the detriments to the residential neighborhood, and the proposal is not in substantial compliance or substantially accomplish the purposes of the underlying zoning district. This is not supposed to be there. It's too much for one site, and we would ask you not to approve this project.
Thank you very much, Attorney Reed. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the microphone. And could you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, good evening, Chairman Igo. My name is Susan Britta. I live in West Yarmouth. As you may know, I am a member of the Planning Board, but I am here tonight as a resident and not speaking on behalf of the Planning Board, but speaking on behalf of myself and as someone who has watched Route 28 for my 50 years living in Yarmouth. Chairman, Mr. Reed mentioned the Route 28 Task Force, which was set up decades ago, several decades ago, at least 20 years ago, and was chaired by your colleague, Dick Martin, and I was a volunteer on that for many years. And I thought we did a terrific job as volunteers, and our sole goal, of course, was to try to beautify Route 28. Many of us still have that goal, in trying to beautify Route 28. Yarmouth itself, its boards and commissions, have worked very, very hard to remedy some of the problems that were identified in that Bluestone report. Namely, we don't have a downtown. We're a long road, but we do have modules over that roadway that we could develop into try to have some sort of sense of community. The road program is a specific example of what the town worked on to try to develop a program that would enhance and promote quality development along Route 28. If you read the Bluestone report, as well as all the documents associated with developing the road program, it had very, very specific goals. It is my opinion that this application does not meet any of the goals. Not only does it not meet the goals and objectives of the road program, it doesn't even meet the parity goal, which was the town gives something and we get something in return. What we're being asked to give up does not equate to what we're getting. In fact, we're not getting anything other than what we would ordinarily get under a regular application, which they're certainly entitled to submit to the zoning board. It is, I appreciate the recitation that, that Mr. Tardif gave about all of the road applications that have been filed. But as Mr. Reed pointed out, that was a very different time in the real estate environment. Real estate today, especially in Yarmouth and in fact across the state, residential real estate is under great pressure. We have homeless, we have got affordable housing issues, we have got immigration issues, we have housing for veterans, housing for mentally ill people, combined with vacant commercial space. Wrap that concept around what's going on in Yarmouth, where we have a wastewater project coming down Route 28, which is going to significantly increase the value of property along 28. And we're now trying to work out what's going to be commercially available, what's going to be residential. Another long-term discussion that the town needs to have. It is my opinion that this is certainly not the time that we should be relaxing any of the programs that we have to accommodate a particular application when the environment in the real estate environment in the town is very much in flux. I don't think it meets I certainly don't think it meets the goal of the road program. I went back and read a lot of the material that was, a lot of the minutes of the meeting that went into developing that program. The town doesn't get anything other than what it would normally get under a normal application. And I urge you, as Mr. Reed said, I urge you not to approve this application. It is outside the scope. It's like the town's setting up rules to play football, and someone comes in and says, I want to play soccer. It just doesn't work that way. This is what the road program was set up to do. It had very specific goals. It was supposed to be pedestrian, residential, a place to go and sit and have coffee, not drive through. And in the long term, I have no doubt it's going to have a very negative effect on the real estate values of the neighborhood and back of this project. Something we simply don't want to do now is to jeopardize the tax base in this town. I think they can submit the project in another fashion. They can come in front of you and not have to, go through each one of these waiver requests individually, rather than try to have you bundle these requests and try to value the value of those requests against what the town gets. And I urge you again not to approve it. It's outside the scope of the road program, and I would again urge you not to approve it. Thank you. And
Thank you
if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? Please step forward.
Hi, my name is Nancy Catton Rayburn. I was actually represented by Attorney Reed here, but I have different issues that I've come upon that he didn't address. First of all, it is true that the other lot is empty, but that's our green space. I think it's been disingenuous for him to draw a line from the Squawk Box to my house, assuming that I only live in my house. I also live on the property. There was also a question of, at the planning board, if there was a problem with the Squawk Box volume, who could we call if it was too loud? Well, I contend that a drive-through is cars. You can't have a drive-through without cars. So cars will be passing my property at 26 feet away from my lot line. And my house is only 30 feet from there, and I have a second floor. Diesel trucks idle at 104 decibels. They accelerate at 114. Then you've got the case of people with their windows open, with their car radios blaring, or that heavy bass beat that a lot of people like to have coming out of their cars, and you can hear them go through the neighborhood. They'll be sitting right next to me doing that, along with the exhaust fumes, the diesel fumes, and whatever. So, and as they're heading towards the drive-through, headlights coming towards me, taking the turn, all starting at 6 o'clock. But I contend that there'll be a lot of activity there before, with donuts being delivered, the people who work there arriving, and then a lot after when they're closing up. That being said, you asked about whether people should be living near gas pumps. A lot of these builds are happening, that they're putting gas stations, and what's happening is people come before boards and ask for their gas station convenience store. And then the towns say, can you give us some housing? And they acquiesce. There is no law against putting housing with gas stations, but there's a lot of ramifications for the health of the people living on those properties. Happenstance, when the mobile station on Route 28, the one that had closed, reopened, there was an article about it in the paper. So I decided I read it, and part of the article said that within the deed of that mobile station, there was a deed restriction that no residences could ever be built on that property. So it piqued my interest, and I started checking into it. And I found at least 12 stations on the Cape with that same deed restriction. And I found also that Mobil Exxon automatically puts it into their deeds. And what it says is that grantee covenants and agrees for itself and its heirs, executors, grantees, successors, and assigns that the property or any portion thereof shall not be used at any time for residents of any type, places of worship, bed and breakfast facilities, rooming houses, hospitals, nursing home or similar geriatric facilities, child care, playground or recreational areas, schools, or any similar use which is intended to house, educate, or provide care for children, the elderly, or the infirm. And then it goes on to say about agricultural uses or any construction underground. So I would contend that Big Oil knows that there's liability with having people housed on a gas station property, because it's proven that on average 40 gallons of gas per year are spilled just at the pumps, and that is impermeable surface, and if it rains it spreads to the edges. So, and there's also the case of most of the accidents at pumps are people backing into them, causing fires, causing spills. This is such a tight build that it just makes that it could be more common. Take, for example, it's unfortunate, but the Save-On pump was hit on September 5th. A woman, drunk driver, hit the pump. So what if there were apartments on that property? What would happen to the people that are living there? I know it may seem like a one-off, but it happens more often than not. There are 5,000 fires at gas stations every year, and that doesn't account just spills without fires. And even at the Save-On, if you watch the video, the police were afraid of an explosion, and that happens too. It happened in Ireland last fall. They had this set up with the gas station out front, convenience, post office, apartments above. It exploded, 7 people were killed, many more injured. You don't expect it to happen, but you shouldn't put people in that position of it possibly happening, because it happens more than you think. If you just Google back into gas pumps, you'll find a lot of this happening. Let's see.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to finish up your comments.
Absolutely. Case in point, I've been talking with the DEP about this at great length, and as they said, they're they're reactive, not proactive. They only go out when there's a spill. And anecdotally, when I was speaking to a person who goes out and audits spills, he was heading out that very afternoon to Somerset. He didn't know how much gas had been spilled, but he knew that 3 families had to be evacuated. If that happens and the property is contaminated again, who knows when those people could get back on it? It needs to be remediated, because it flows under the building and the fumes go into the house. I just say that it's something to look at, and whether it's a liability that the town wants to take on. I know in Haverhill, They bought a Getty station. The Getty station didn't want any liability, and the town said, well, we'll take it on, and they're going to build a park and apartments or whatever. But I think it's something to look at. I don't know if it's a safe situation for people, or for especially children. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition?
My name is Jeannie Hughesby, and I live at 10 Nahat Road, which is the road, the first right turn off of 28 to the west of the gas station property. I also, my property abuts part of the development. I just have, I think it's kind of a simple request. If any of you would go and put yourself in these in the residential area, stand on the property and look towards this development. See how you would feel with the way the setbacks and things are set up now. See how you would feel if you walked out into your backyard and what was going to be there. I think you'd get a different perspective of what is going on. I don't deny anybody the fact of wanting to do business, but it's going to affect the residents that have been there for a long time. It's going to affect the whole neighborhood. It may include much more traffic coming down Nahat. But I would just like to ask you maybe to get the feel of what we're feeling because of what isn't being done to prevent the repercussions on the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard in opposition to this petition? Seeing none? Okay, I see one more coming up.
Hi, my name is Shelley Morrison, and I live at 23 Briar Lane. I'm on the other side of her unused, unbuilt property, and I've been there for 27 years now. And I feel that if they've already knocked down a bunch of trees and a building and stuff like that, and before that, you couldn't even tell that 28 was there. It's already affected me before they've even done anything. I go out my backyard and I could see 28, it's right there, everything is cleared out. I like my little, I love my neighbors, I love my little alcove, it's very private. I just feel them doing that, I go to sit outside and I'm gonna be listening to people ordering their coffee, donuts. It's my little haven I deal with the public all day. I work at Job Lot. I deal with the public all day. It's my little safe haven to go home to and relax and enjoy the neighborhood. And I just feel that this would ruin the whole neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard in opposition to this petition? Seeing none. Attorney Tardif, do you wish to respond to any of the comments that you've heard?
If I could briefly. So I started doing zoning around here in 1998, and I was not, I was new when I got here. Guys like Mr. Reed were teaching it to me, and knows it well. But I do have a recollection of some of how this came to be. The Bluestone Group did come in and do several, if I'm not mistaken, over several years, they did several reports, and each time they were ignored. They got to the town would say, forget it. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. The planning board then passed the road bylaw. And part of that was the advent of something called, a publication called Designing the Future to Honor the Past. And if you look at that zoning bylaw in 2000, it actually references this name. I think Mr. Reed, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he said that these were developed not just for architectural design and architecture, but to create village centers, because the Bluestone Group said we needed village centers. In fact, the village centers, the Bluestone Group suggested we have either 7 or 9 different village centers along Route 28. For example, right near the drive-in site was one, South Yarmouth was another. There was a couple in between. There was the medical village center over at the other side. I'm probably missing some. But that was the plan. And so in order to provide incentive for development along 28, they needed to know what this thing was going to look like. And so they went out, the planner at the time went out and found these Designing the Future Honor the Past. Didn't have to look far. The following sections present design guidelines which will be incorporated into the Cape Cod Commission's development of the Regional Impact Review process. So these came from Barnstable Village, and the Cape Cod Commission developed these. This was the size of designing, what is it again? Designing the Future to Honor the Past. And it was overboard, but it was for design. So then, in 2006, Yarmouth decided, well, we better call it something else. So they called it the Yarmouth Architectural and Site Design Standards, and they adopted that on August 16th of 2016. These also says these standards are intended to promote good design that is responsive to its contextual setting. It in no way by itself ever said we have to create a group of businesses where one's going to park in one place and walk around. That's not what these were for. The village centers were designed to do that. We started working on the village centers in 2006. I was on a committee along with Chairman DeYoung. I believe Mr. Reed was actually on the committee with us and had some representatives from the Bass River, River Street, Pleasant Street group. And the town had instructed us to create a village center in South Yarmouth. This was going to be the first. I thought the easiest one would have been down by the drive-in site, but no, we wanted to start down here because we had the properties on Commercial Street on the other side of the road, which is where you have Platinum Auto and Witten Landscaping and those businesses as well. Long story short on that is that anything we proposed, it was shot down. The committee couldn't agree on anything. There was no desire to create a village center, especially in South Yarmouth. Leave us alone was basically the message that I received. We disbanded, and the village centers sort of went away. So to say that these were created to have some sort of, destination locations, that's incorrect. It was designed only, and so they picked this up and included it as a incentive in exchange for redevelopment of properties. Mr. Reed asked how a gas station can ever comply with the road bylaw. And I just simply point to section 411.3.3, which has the waiver limitations, which says what you cannot do in the road district. And gas stations are not enumerated. So we can, as long as we follow this bylaw, which we have. We respect the neighborhood. I know the neighbors aren't going to believe that. The neighbors have had to have heard all the changes and accommodations we've made for them for this project to work. We want to be good neighbors, but we are not in a residential zone. This is a business zone. This is a B2 zoning district. We didn't draw the rear line of our lot. Okay, that was done at some point when the bylaw was created, and they wanted a business zone on Route 28. So they said, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I believe that the idea was the B2 zoning district will apply to any lot that fronts on Route 28 to the rear boundary of that lot. Or, and I think it was some ridiculous amount of 1,500 feet or 1,300 feet, whichever is more, whichever is less, I should say. So that is how the B2 zoning district is that crazy shape that you have on our zoning map. We didn't draw that. The town gave us our business zone that way. We're trying to operate in a business zone. We've been trying to accommodate noise, light, the drive-through issue, the parking issue, the buffers. We've done everything. We've changed it. This plan works. This is a balance. The town does get something out of this. If the town is getting nothing out of this, then I don't know what can. This is a beautiful project. It's really going to benefit that area. Now, maybe South Yarmouth didn't want the village center, but take a look at that section of South Yarmouth on Route 28 right now. And you have some very, very difficult buildings to look at. The Sertan Leather Building, the old D'Angelo's Building, the strip malls. Not as far, I mean, not Great Island is probably not in that zone, but look at that. And that is a lack of development on the part of towns, of developers, and mostly because of regulations and opposition. There has to be a time when you can let a business person work in a business zone. Yes, there has to be some expectation that as a business owner, we understand that there's a residence next to us and we'll make some accommodation. It runs both ways. If they want us to abandon our lot and keep it quiet all the time, then you'll have no business in this town. You'll have nothing. And it's coming. I counsel a lot of clients who, when they see the process that they have to go through to put properties in business zones, they'd rather leave, and they do. They're either going into other towns or they're getting off the Cape altogether. And we can say good riddance to them. We'll get someone else. But who's going to pay the taxes? This is a property that cries for this project. You have a developer that you want in this town. This is what we should be approving. Our deed is not restricted to any type of use such as that. This property should be developed. One more thing. When we're looking at road applications and road decisions, if we're looking at, what do they call them? Destination locations? Can somebody tell me how the Shields Healthcare Group has ever been a destination location where you could do multi-shopping there? It's surrounded by marshland and a RV center. And if we look at the requirements in this decision from 2000, the purpose of the Road District Acts are accomplished. The Road District seeks to utilize flexible zoning standards to induce rehabilitation and reuse existing buildings. The proposal will use a vacant building and enhance the visual presence of the property. The project benefits the neighborhood by improving and beautifying what has been a derelict property. They will enhance the neighborhood and there'll be no adverse impacts on the required variation. It was written by none other than Mr. Reed. Now, he's dealing with different requirements at the time. He's dealing with these requirements from 2000, which required him to look at designing the future to honor the past. There it is again. So this is where it came from. The same standards apply. If that building looks the part, this building, these buildings, I should say, look the part. I urge you to do what a lot of the business owners are crying for. Approve this plan, allow development, allow us to work in the town. If we can't do that, again, you're going to have a very, very empty South Yarmouth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Tarter. At this time, I think we're going to close the hearing to the public. We're going to open it up to board discussion. Is there anyone that would like to begin a discussion? Well, I guess I'm going to pick a volunteer to begin the discussion, and I'm going to pick Mr. Neitz to begin the discussion. Dick? why
Thank
don't
you, Mr.
start
Chairman.
things off?
I think, I think the process of this hearing is really valuable, to get people out of their houses and express their opinions, I think is a phenomenal benefit for all of us. And I think we really have to put that into consideration when we make a decision that affects not just them, but all of us in the town. And I think overriding, some of the individual displeasure with a particular project, we have to take into consideration the responsibility to promote responsible action that makes the town a more viable place to live as a whole. And that's the redevelopment of a lot of archaic buildings and businesses that are and have become eyesores by today's standards, both in appearance and in use. I hate drive-up windows. I don't even like to use the bank drive-up windows, but it's culturally, unfortunately, become so prevalent nationwide that it's a detriment to businesses of a certain type that if they don't have that. And there's a competitive aspect to every business that they need to compete to be a viable business, or people will go elsewhere. And I think the town needs to take that into consideration too, to have viable businesses that can make it in this varied economy and changing economy. And I think anybody today who's investing in the magnitude of this project certainly is required, both from a financial standpoint and probably from the lending officer, if there's one involved, to make it a viable project, or they're not going to get their funding, and that's not going to happen, and the buildings are eventually going to fall down. It really is a difficult decision, but I think, I think we have the responsibility not to dissuade future development in the future, as Mr. Tarter fears that might happen, and I've seen that in my business as well, with people that just are confronted with regulations and processes that they choose not to pay people like Mr. Tardif and all the people that make all these plans and have 17 different variations of the plans during the process. As a community, we need to be more welcoming to make these properties more viable, and I think we do have that responsibility for the, designing for the future businesses that it will remain viable, and also I think a lot of communities have formulas through which they derive their taxes, and they're looking for a certain percentage of businesses to carry the weight of the burden, of the financial burden of running the town and keeping the town a nice place to live and have roads that you can drive on and snow removal in the winter and nice beaches in the summer and all the things that we kind of take for granted here. But I think that we need to be thinking in terms of adding to the economic base, providing more taxes to take the burden off the residential taxpayer, who I think in the future is going to be significantly burdened by sewer charges and other things that are coming down the road. And I think that this is certainly a project that has had a tremendous amount of input from a lot of different people over a very long period of time. But I'm not a huge fan of gas stations, but, you know, as a gas station goes, this is a very attractive-looking building. And while it is going to change the back neighbors' outlook, they've done a lot to try to minimize that. And I think it's the first time that I've sat on a petition on this board where there's been anything like an acoustical fence even mentioned. I don't remember ever having one on any petition that I sat on. And I think that's in deference to the proximity to the neighbors. I know that when the McDonald's came through for the second drive-up window at their establishment, I was absolutely dumbfounded that they would want to do something within 35 feet of their neighbors. But there were neighbors there that said, if they provide us with some relief to the maintenance of the property and some relief from with fencing that they're going to keep up and the appearance of the building, we could live with that, and so long as they're conscious of us with the volume controls on the speaker systems and those types of things. So it's not an unusual request, but I can understand if somebody's been living in a property for 40 or 50 years and it's going to be a change to have it redeveloped. When you abut a commercial district, you're going to have to deal with renovations and improvements for the benefit of the community. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Dick. Those are very good words. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd echo what was said about the proposal and the plan and the understanding of the neighbors here. I did, although it's perhaps unnecessary to mention our own personal understanding, but I live next door to one of the busiest places on 6A recently of Lighthouse Keeper's Pantry. So I understand what it's like to be a resident next to a busy commercial space, and their backyard abuts my backyard abuts their parking lot, and for that I understand the necessity of it for our community, and change has come in the 12 years that I've lived there in the development and certainly the volume. And so I can appreciate and understand the concerns of the residents here, not just from a zoning perspective, but from a personal perspective. And I think the thoughtfulness that has gone into this proposal, the multitude of hearings and changes are reflective of what we hear tonight. And I expect that consideration to be continued throughout their ownership.
Okay. John, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think Mr. Neitz did a good job summarizing my thoughts. It's difficult to always please everyone. I think both sides made very good arguments, but it is a business district. This gentleman has a right to develop his business on his property. And, is it too aggressive? could be an argument there. You know, there's a lot going on. But I think they've done a good job trying to address all the issues. So, you know, I think, again, the residents have a good argument, but I'm tending to lean towards the business side of things here. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, your thoughts?
You know, I can appreciate, you know, the arguments on both sides here, but it is zoned as a business. It's going to improve the lot. I appreciate what they've done with the acoustical fence and with all the plantings. And I think it's a real improvement. I would be in support of it.
Okay, thank you. Well, I do want to commend Dick for his words. I think they really hit on a lot of themes and a lot of ideas and a lot of feelings that everybody on both sides are feeling. There is an inherent conflict, as we've discussed, when commercial zones.
Nothing we said. Nothing.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
So are we gonna calm down in the audience there, please, sir?
I believe the audience is exiting.
For showing us we don't matter.
Okay. Do we have order in the room?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if we have any more outbursts, I'm gonna ask my administrative assistant to call the police department. Are we clear? Okay, thank you. As I was saying, there is an inherent conflict when commercial meets residential. There's no other way around it. So what we have to do is we have to reach a balance. If you look at the way Route 28 is laid out in our B2 zone, my understanding is the B2 goes back until it hits a residential district. That's just the way it's laid out. And that's why you get all this zigzag all the way around. I've certainly taken into consideration what the residents are telling us. And I don't disagree that if I were living that close to a drive-in, drive-up window, that I would be concerned too, and I wouldn't be happy about it. But I think while we do take the residents into consideration, and we always should, I think we also have to take into consideration the business as well, because business people have rights too. I think the question before us is what is proposed here tonight, is it more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, to the zoning district, than what was there before? Is it going to make so much of a negative impact that it does not meet the criteria? Now, I heard about pollution, okay, seeping into the ground. I mean, I presume that everything that's going to be built here is going to be state of the art. They'll have fire suppression systems, which I'm sure the one that's there now has as well. In terms of the convenience store, you're getting a beautiful building that's going to be built there. And if we want to talk about places that residents can walk to for convenience, they can walk right around the corner and walk right in. They can go to Dunkin' Donuts. They can go there for convenience. They can go there for fuel. It really, I think it enhances the area. I think it would actually increase the value of their properties. If we just say no to every time we object to something new being built next to a residential zoning district, Route 28 eventually will be empty. We just can't do that. We have, as a board, we have to balance this. And so when I look at this on balance, I think they have done a good job trying to address all of the concerns of not only the residents, but of this board, because this is the second time this petition's been before us. And we had problems with the first one, and they left and they came back. we had problems with the residential aspect of it last time. I think they've done a good job. I think they've separated the residential from the commercial quite nicely with buffers, and it's truly residential over there on the east side of the property. I think what you have sitting here right now, I don't think, quite frankly, we would have any opposition to this. I could be wrong. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I think we would have very little if it was just a convenience store and a couple of new gas pumps being put in there. I think where we're getting the real conflict here, I believe, is with the drive-up window. That seems to be where the crux of the dispute is, and the lighting over the canopies, which we would certainly make that a condition that that lighting is going to have to be contained to the property. If it's not, and that's already been addressed by the building commissioner, then there will not be a certificate of occupancy issued to this property. So no one's going to have glaring lights onto their property. The drive-up window, I know the lady behind it, the property, is very concerned, and rightfully so. But I think we're going to have an acoustical fence there, and as Dick said, I don't really know anything about an acoustical fence, except that it sounds to me like it's going to knock down the noise there. I will suggest that any decision that we make tonight, should it be favorable, that I'm going to ask that the motion maker include as a condition that we have at least a 1-year review after the issue of a certificate of occupancy, so we can review this project and see if we need to tweak it at all, because maybe that acoustical fence doesn't work as well. Maybe we got to do something different. Maybe we got to do something more to reinforce that, to protect the neighbor in the rear, or to protect the other surrounding neighbors. So I'm very sensitive to your concerns, and I think the rest of the board is too. You know, I know you may think that we're just all in favor of this project and we're not thinking of you, but we are. And Attorney Reed made some very valid points. I believe Attorney Tardif has made valid points. And so what we as a board have to do is to weigh which decision, which position we are going to support. In terms of this tonight, I am going to support this petition because I think they do meet the criteria under road. I think the purpose and intent of the road bylaw was to allow certain redevelopment that this particular project is. I think this is a representation of road. We have a town that's very old and very dilapidated. And Attorney Tardif is right. People don't want to come into this town and do business because they think everybody's going to say no. But sometimes we have to say no. And we're not just a rubber stamp, and we should not be, and we never will be. And the history of this Board of Appeals has shown that to be that way. And I think on balance, we get it right. And I think this project will be more of a benefit than a detriment. So I think the benefits outweigh any detriments. I don't think it's going to be an undue nuisance, hazard, or congestion, and I don't think it's going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And I think it's in keeping with the purpose and intent of what the voters of the town of Yarmouth wanted. And so I urge my fellow board members to support this, and I look forward to one of them making a motion, and so we can move this question along. Thank you. Is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit for petition 5055 with the condition that we will review in 1 year.
Okay, we have a 1-year review. Would you also put in that petition that the lighting as referenced in the site plan review comment sheet, appears to, the lights that they're planning on using appear to travel off the property. So would you put in a condition that the lighting, although the bylaw requires it, must be contained within the property?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so lighting contained. Hours of operation have been represented as 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the drive up. Is that, did you make that part of your conditions?
We can. I mean, that's been stated, but we can put that in the motion.
We'll just put this in just to
6 to
just
8.
to remind the petitioner who's going to draft this decision. So 6 to 10 for gas, 6 to 8 for the drive up.
For the convenience, yeah. The drive-up.
The drive, the retail shops and the gas, 6 to 10.
The retail and the gas.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the one-year review. I don't think that it's reasonable for us to, if it's a specific thing like the acoustical fence or the volume of the drive-up window or something, but I think the petitioner would be hard-pressed to get financing if there was a one-year review for this project, and I think it's unreasonable for us to put that limitation on them.
I think really the only thing I wanted to review, and it really was whether that acoustical fence is working. It's the only issue. If it wasn't working, I would probably ask the petitioner to do something to reinforce it or some other idea to control the sound. That's really my only real concern with this petition. Otherwise, I think the rest of it works. That
I
was the
can't
only
speak for the
reason.
petitioner, but, I just wanted to raise the concern.
No, your point's well taken. Your point is well taken. Could we limit the review of the 1 year just to see how the acoustical sound
Acoustical
is?
fence, sure, yeah.
Dick, is that acceptable to you?
It would be to me. I don't know if it's to the petitioner.
Well, we're putting these conditions on the motion right now, so.
I understand.
they're not- Yeah, so for the acoustical fence,
I don't see them passing out over it, so I'm not going to worry about it.
yeah.
We could make it, I mean, after a year, if it's not working, what do we do, 10 feet, then 12, then 4?
No.
Berm, like, I don't,
No, wait, well, actually, we could have a discussion about that, because I think there was the planning board had a condition about so many decibels.
Yep.
Yeah, we can
So I'll tell you what, how about this? How about you're required to submit us a report that shows that you're not in excess of those decibels?
I think that's a better route to take.
actually, I think, well, in the planning board approval, it said the 8-foot acoustical fence shall have a sound transmission class rating of 26.
I don't know what that is.
That's above our pay grade, I think.
Might
I
be.
don't know. I don't know what that is.
As
I
I
want to
mean,
have
we-
the condition that
wanna read
confirms that planning board
Yeah,
requirement. I think,
Or file a report with us that you're within that scope
Is
after,
that how we want to do it? Just
yeah.
provide some documentation that they're
Yeah.
staying within the
That,
They're
the
compliant,
decibel lesson.
they're compliant with was it the planning board that came up with that?
Right. It'll be
yeah,
in
that was
compliance with the
the
zoning.
condition.
With the planning board.
With the planning board
With the planning board.
suggestions?
So is
One-year review of the decibel level, right?
You want to do the
Well-
1 year, and we'll
well-
just do a measurement or submit something?
I think so.
That's the way, I think that's the way to go. But let's,
So what if we did this? What if we adopt the planning board conditions? Because that addresses the acoustics.
and we'll get a copy of the decibel readings after,
And then ask the
6 months or something.
petitioner, to do a sound reading.
Yeah.
Okay, sound measurement and submit the results to the board. Would that work?
Sure.
Okay. Yes.
Sound readings. Board.
If it works, maybe we can get a piece of the action from the acoustical fence company. I'm teasing.
Don't know what
A
an
question for the petitioner. I noticed on the plan that the divider between the residential and the gas pumps, would it be possible to run one of those finished black coated chain link fences along that line there, just to, so kids or nothing can run through there into the driveway?
Yeah, you mean from the first parking space, which is
Yeah,
there, and right down to this corner?
Right down to that corner right
Yeah,
there.
we can do that.
If we could just put that in there, that way no people can just walk into the driveway there, whether they be children or adult.
Or pets.
Or pets.
Yep.
Any more input from the board relative to anything?
I'm ready to second the motion.
If we leave anything out, I think it's all covered. I think there's been representations. And on the plan, the landscaping will be as submitted by the plan that was represented by the petitioner, correct, Attorney Tardo?
That's correct.
And referencing the planning board suggestions or conditions.
Mm-hmm.
From both in there, yep. Two conditions?
I don't remember.
I think that's two.
The fence.
Decibels.
The decibel and the fence.
The fence of the decibels, yeah.
Yep.
Height.
Is there anything else? Board?
Not for me, no.
Well, for the record, I believe that the petitioner has met the criteria under the bylaw, both under 411. Excuse me for 1 second. I think they've demonstrated that they've met the criteria of the bylaw under section 411. I know that the petitioner went over and represented to us different criteria, the objectives of criteria, mandatory criteria. As represented by the petitioner, I believe he has met that. And so based on that, I do think he meets the criteria for a special permit. So I do want to put that on the record. Anything else? We ready for a vote?
I believe so.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none.
Thank you very much.
Attorney Tardif, I'll expect a draft decision from you, please.
You'll have it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Ah,
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
that's a tough. You don't have a business that's dependent upon people from that neighborhood, do you?
I'm an attorney. Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
I was on the planning board.
Yeah.
I mean, You just,
I thought we all said that, too.
yeah.
Said we understand
Yeah.
both arguments with both
Yeah,
sides.
yeah,
And, but it is a business thing. And the guys
It's,
got a right
it's
to
so in
develop it.
business, and you
And
knew
it's a
that.
ma-
It's,
fun.
I know. It improved, to
lot.
me, it
Of course
improves.
it does.
Improves what's there now.
That's, and you know, he makes a good point. You know, you keep turning these folks down.
I know.
Nobody's gonna wanna do
No,
business.
I know.
I've been here a long time.
It's his property in a business.
Yeah.
Summered here from the 50s. I graduated from DY. I finished my last 2 years at DY. Left, went to Washington for 6 years, and then came back. Here we are.
I've been in Massachusetts since I was 18, but we grew up communicating members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One from this side of here.
The world changed when Greg brought that building, I guess. Huh?
For the positive, absolutely for the positives. I love it there, and they're great.
You get free scones now? Bring it apart.
I do. I get free honey.
Good.
I occasionally get eggs, and I get to taste test everything before they come out with it.
Hey, that's good. That's good fringe benefit.
Listen,
Well, they're top shelf people, I think.
it's been nothing but great to me.
That's good. Well, they know that they need to be friends with their neighbors, too, so.
And
It's tight quarters. I know it's been tough. I know that the police have been cracking down on the parking and all that stuff. It's made it tough. But I would guess that would transfer some of the traffic to the back lot, which probably doesn't phase you, but.
For the most part, they operate when I'm not there,
Oh,
when I'm
oh.
working. So it's.
I needed that break.
That's not, yeah, that's a toughie. That's, it,
Yeah, it was.
I just,
I feel bad for those folks.
I'm sure it's gonna cost me a lot of money in that neighborhood, but.
Well,
But,
you can't, like Sean said, you can't please everyone when it comes down to it. Where those two zones meet. That's a
absolutely,
Somebody's
know,
gonna come away unhappy.
and you
Our
know,
obligation, I think, is to the business. It's his property in a business zone.
and the town is gonna benefit. The town is not gonna benefit if the business goes out of business and it's just derelict.
Right. If we keep turning people down, nobody's gonna come here and do business. And we can't have that.
I know. I hear it all the time. All right.
I stamped it a couple times just to make
We
sure.
need to check the tire pressure in our cars.
Come on. Try to be as classy as David Reed. Try that. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to wait to submit these? This is just like what the air park is gonna be. I just thought I'd hand these out.
The air park. Help me. Oh, Ryan's. Okay. Well, I always thought it was like a bouncy house. I think, yeah, he'll officially tell you, come over here, and I'm officially gonna point up there. How's that? Okay. Yes,
I
you
do.
saw it upstairs. I was like, it's the same place it always is. Oh, goodness me. All right. What day? Oh, you don't need any, I don't think we need it, I don't think we need it anymore. I'm pretty sure.
Hey, boy. How you been?
Okay.
Starting to like the center seat.
You do well in the center seat, that's why we put you there.
I do well.
Everybody else gets nervous, not John. John's like, I can handle this.
John.
No.
Don't get comfortable in my, don't get comfortable. All right, where are the others? Let's get this,
I
five.
think we're almost there. I hope we didn't lose our tech.
Yeah, don't let him leave. Okay, we're gonna put things into high gear now, folks.
Hang on a second. I want to make sure that, are we back or?
I think everybody's here.
Everybody's back. Do we have Attorney Tardif back?
Are you back too? Good. Get rid of you.
Okay, if we're all back, then why don't we resume the hearing? The next petition is petition 5056, Ryan Family Amusements Incorporated. Property's located at 1067 Route 28, South Yarmouth. It's in a B2 zoning district, and the applicant seeks a special permit per 104.3.2 subsection 4 and 202.5N to expand the pre-existing non-conforming entertainment and amusement use N4 and N11 within the existing building. Good evening, Attorney Tardif.
Good evening. For the record, again, I'm Paul Tardif, and seated with me is Peter Campbell from Ryan Family Amusements. And Ryan Family is the occupant of the property over at 1067 Route 28 in South Yarmouth. I think we all know where that building is. It's next to the post office, I guess, and across from the famous McDonald's. So this property is again in the B2 zoning district, contains approximately 2.85 acres. That's the entire property. The Ryan family actually appeared before this board for relief in the recent past, but you all know that it is well known for its bowling lanes, game rooms, entertainment for families, and that's not just in Yarmouth, but throughout the Cape, Newport, Martha's Vineyard, Hanover. I have a big facility, 10-pin, and there's a connection there as well. So,
Axe throwing.
Axe throwing, that's right, cornhole. In January of 2022, this applicant appeared before the board seeking relief to expand the existing and the new entertainment uses into an adjacent space that in the same building, which formerly housed a fitness center and a liquor store. So I think it was Daggett's. So Daggett's moved across the street. That used to be the old fitness center with racquetball courts and all that. So they moved some of their operation in there for the axe throwing, a cornhole, and it's connected with the bowling alley. Came back for signs over two of the doors, which was approved. Those are in place. No changes to that except for the wording on the sign, because the plan is to remove the cornhole operation with something else. So we're just going to change the wording on the sign. When I checked with Mark Grills, no need to come before the board for that because it's speech, and so we didn't need to worry about that. But the proposal is to add a new use on the first level of that new space, which will be about 5,000 square feet, for an air park. I'm going to explain what it is in a minute. And additional arcade games being moved around to utilize 3,341 square feet on the second level. That'll be for seating and observation of what's happening in the air park, some children's birthday parties, a place to congregate, men's, women's bathroom. There's also going to be access either from a lift or an elevator, and also stairs as well. Expanded uses will be completely located within existing space. No expansion of the footprint is contemplated. I do want to show you what an air park looks like. I didn't know what it was, so I asked them to bring some stuff.
We're all getting old. Don't let the power go to your head. Inflatable.
So it's basically, well, Pete, you want to explain a little bit what air park, things you can do in an air park?
It's not a moon bounce house. That's the first thing that people think when you say air park. It's more of an activity center. It is blown up, but there's several different types of games that you can play. There's dodgeball, there's obstacle courses, there's it's for all ages, kids to adults.
Kind of like a water park without the water?
No.
Climbing wall?
Yeah, climbing wall,
Climbing
slides.
Makes falling off a little easier, so.
Yeah. Well, it makes landing a little easier.
Right. No changes are going to be made on the outside. The parking staying the same. Site plan review, we went there on October 3rd. It was helpful having the fire department there. They had, because of some of the renovations are going on, and they've been very instrumental there, watching how that's all done, making sure it's completely safe. And Matt Burse has been great about that. So he was there, and they've been working together on that. And the planning department also. So it's been very good. So what we're asking is under 104.3.2, Section 4, which is just be to expand the pre-existing non-conforming use, again, in the same building. I think it's something we all want over there. This is really going to kick the entertainment area up, literally, up and on the first floor. But I think it's going to be a good center for everyone. It's good for the town. It's indoor entertainment. We have a lot of outdoor entertainment, but when the rain comes, we still need that as well. So, and I think Ryan Family's reputation precedes it. The way that they operate, always first class, safety, attention to detail. So I don't think there's going to be any hazard, nuisance, congestion. It's going to be it's probably going to be a wash for the number of people, because we've taken the cornhole out. A lot of those people came by themselves for those tournaments, and there was probably 60 of them.
Yeah.
Where there's going to be more family entertainment, so there might be even a wash, maybe a little decrease, but I think it's going to be good for more families, and so that's what we're looking for tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to questions. Barbara, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
No, I mean, I had no idea what this was. I had to figure out what in the world it was. I think I'm showing my age.
I didn't know either. No idea.
I didn't know either, so don't feel bad.
So the maximum capacity is 96 users? Is that what it says on here, 96?
yes.
Yeah? Would there ever be that many people in there at once?
I wouldn't think so.
Talking over each other, wouldn't there? So there would be a separate fee to use this?
I don't know.
To get into the air park, or no?
You have to pay to get into the airport
Yes,
separately.
a separate
Yeah.
fee. I didn't understand. Yes, it would be a separate.
Separate fee?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's all I've got, thank you.
Okay, John, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Dick, do you have any questions?
Anticipated extra burden on parking?
No, with that lot.
Yeah, I know you got a lot, and the post office is closed at night, and so you probably have more than enough, I would think, but.
And as Mr. Tardif said, we're taking the cornhole out. A lot of those people drove their own cars,
Okay.
whereas this will be more family oriented, so we're thinking less cars.
Okay.
Anthony?
No, I think it's great. I agree with Paul's remark that people really need to have other activities on rainy days. They can't all go to the movies.
You can use them on sunny days, too.
Yeah, oh, I know.
You know.
It's like, a museum I've involved with generally has more business on rainy days, too, so I understand.
No questions for me. I mean, I think it's pretty clear it's not substantially more detrimental, in my opinion, to the neighborhood, but.
Okay. Yes, I don't really have any questions. I'm very happy to see that, you're going to utilize that space over there, and I think you're the natural person to keep that spot over there versus a new business coming in there, because you've got all your businesses right there, and it's worked out very well. I think you've been a great business asset to the town. I have no problems with it, and I certainly think they meet the criteria of the bylaw, so I would urge the board to support it. Is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? That carries unanimously. Cardiff, I'll look forward to a decision.
Okay, you'll have it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know you have one more after this, but we're going to take,
Thank you.
Ally Big Delizeri. You're gonna have to help me say that last name. Alan?
That was very good.
Big Deliz-
You
Big
passed.
Delizeri. Okay. How are you tonight? The property's located at 55 Bayberry Road in West Yarmouth. It's in an R25 zoning district, and the applicant seeks a special permit for 104.3.2, subparagraph 2, and/or a variance from section 203.5 for front setback relief on an undersized lot to build an overhang over the front step. Good evening, sir. How are you tonight?
Good, very good. Ali Bigdali Azari, 55 Bayberry Road. There's a pre-existing front step within
Yeah.
30 foot from the street. It's only about 2.5 feet long. And we put an
Yeah.
overhang which is about 2.5 feet over it. That's the nature of the request we have.
Okay, yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. So I see you meet all of your setbacks. And this will just kick you into the setback, well, just a little more than 2 feet. So you're still going to maintain about 28 feet with a 30-foot requirement. Okay. Let's go to the board for some questions. Anthony, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I know this is pretty straightforward of what you're requesting here.
Anything, Anthony? Are you sure?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Dick, any questions?
I rode by this morning, and it doesn't look like anything like the picture or the proposal, so I'm trying to figure out.
So we're doing a major renovation to the property.
Yeah, I noticed.
Everything else meets all the zoning requirements.
Is that gable on the front door now?
No, it's not. That's what we're adding in.
Okay, that's what you're going to add?
Yes, sir.
And that's the only reason you need to come to us?
Yes, sir.
Mark couldn't find anything else?
Actually, Mark's the one who actually helped me write the petition request. I'm wondering why I sat here for 3 hours for this, but it was really interesting to hear everything else out.
So that's all right.
Attorneys do, so.
Probably should have taken you first, actually. So,
I
yeah.
actually would like that in future for other residents of town,
Okay,
because this is a 2-minute job.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, don't snitch. As the saying goes, don't snatch
Defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah.
Okay. So let's keep going with the board here. Okay. John,
Criticize
do you have
after
any
we've made the
questions?
decision.
I was just commenting.
Okay.
That's criticism.
John, any questions?
I drove by this morning. It looked like they were building it this morning, but
In the scheme of things, would you have added that if you knew what you'd have to go through to get here?
Actually, my wife halfway through said, forget about it.
Okay, that's what I was
But,
wondering. Okay.
Okay. John,
yeah,
questions?
no, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay. Barbara, any questions?
No, or do I dare say it's de minimis?
You can say it's de minimis. You can use that
Sean's
word.
good word.
I really, I will just make a comment here. The first comment is this is not a special permit. This is going to require a variance. The reason why it's going to require a variance is because this is not an extension of a legally pre-existing non-conforming setback. In other words, it's not within the setbacks right now. You're creating a brand new nonconformity, so it's going to require a variance. I think the petitioner probably meets the criteria for a variance.
Did he ask
because it
for
was-
one?
Yes.
He didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he
And/or
did.
variance, okay, okay.
So it's going to have to be variance relief on this. But I think we could probably grant him variance relief because it's certainly going to be a hardship. I don't think we're going to degrade from the purpose and intent of the bylaw if we do grant it. And I think it's probably due to the fact, knowing this lot right here, it's going to be soil conditions because this lot right here probably has soil issues in one part of it or not, knowing Bayberry Road, which I do very well. So I do believe he meets the criteria for variance. Is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a
Or does
motion.
anybody wanna have-
I'll make
excuse
a
me,
motion that the variance from section 203.5 for front setback relief is granted as applied for.
Okay. You have a second on that motion?
Second?
Okay, Dick, you seconded it. Any further discussion on the motion before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Now, sir, after the decision is written, it'll be filed with the town clerk. 20 days must elapse. After that 20 days elapses, you can come pick up your special permit from Dolores, our administrative assistant, and then you have to take it to the registry of deeds and record it, and then bring us back a copy of it, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Good luck on your project.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You need to withdraw the special permit?
Oh, thank you. Yes, sir, we're gonna ask you to withdraw your request for special permit relief. You don't need it.
Okay.
And that's gonna be without prejudice, so it's not gonna hurt you though. So you're asking us to withdraw that for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anybody prepared to make a motion?
I move we accept the petitioner's request to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Dick. Who seconded that?
John.
John seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. That's withdrawn without prejudice. Have a very nice night, sir. and
Thank
We're
you.
sorry
You
to
too.
keep you waiting
Good luck with the
so long.
project. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lot going on here.
And last but not least,
Now, our last petition, and is petition number, let me get my.
5060.
5060, Karen and Kenneth Cordy, property location 7 Duck Pond Road, Yarmouthport. It's in an R40 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit for 104.3.2 to construct a second floor addition, increasing the height of the existing single-family dwelling by 3 feet. Attorney Tardif, good evening.
Yes, for the record, Paul Tardif again. I'm here with Karen and Ken Cordy, the owners of the property at 7 Duck Pond Road. As you indicated, it's in the R40 zoning district and is currently improved with a one-story, single-family structure with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in approximately 1971. That's what the field card says, anyway. The lot contains 12,777 square feet. The existing structure conforms with the current front yard, rear yard, and right side yard setback, but it sits 15.2 feet from the left side boundary, so a little under 5 feet encroaching into a side setback currently, but that's pre-existing non-conforming. Lot coverage is at 16. The height is currently at 19 feet, so pretty much okay there. The proposal, though, is to construct a second floor addition over the existing structure, so we're not tearing this one down. We're just putting a second floor on top. We're going to move some things around inside the house, but we will be creating a 2-story, 3-bedroom, single-family dwelling, same footprint. Nothing's changing on the outside. That encroachment's not going any further to the side, and it's not getting any better, unfortunately, but we can't move the whole house. Height is going to go up to about 22 feet. And the only other change to the property is a deck in the rear of the house, which doesn't need any relief because it meets all the setbacks. So that we don't need any relief for that. This is a similar, these come up a lot where you're going up in height in a setback, which is what 104.32 talks about. If you are going up on a section of the house that doesn't go higher than the existing height of the house, you're all set. But when you raise the height of the house, you have to come in. If you remember correctly, I don't know if any of you sat on these. John, you may have been here. We had 2 of these. Sean was here. We had 2 on, I think it was Eldridge Road, where the contractor got building permits for both, built the second floors, and then had to come in for relief after the fact. This one's not built, luckily, so that's good. Asking first. So basically, just going up on something that's already there. So under 104.32.2, the board can issue a special permit as long as you find that what he's putting up there is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Old Kings Highway has already approved these plans, right? They've already been there, so that's good, yep. I don't think it's detrimental in any way. I think it's going to be a beautiful home for the neighborhood on a decent-sized lot. So hopefully you will agree. If you have any questions, here we are.
Okay, thank you very much.
104.3.2 say, does not exceed the current maximum building height?
No, it says you have to look at 104.3.2, section 1B first.
Yeah.
It says, any alteration or extension of such a structure which will remain within the pre-existing footprint and height of the structure.
The existing height.
Yeah, that's the difference. So anytime, we've done them before where we've had sections of the house that are increased in height, except they're lower than the peak of the main house.
Yeah.
We're all set. But we're in the setback here and the height's going up in the setback. And that's why we need the relief, so.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the only reason, because of that side setback.
22.
Yeah.
Here's the road.
Okay, Barbara, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, John?
No, I think it'll be nice. I mean, you got a couple of colonials and capes and right
Most
there on
everything
the
around
street.
it is 2 stories.
Yeah,
so.
exactly, exactly. So I don't see any issues with the neighborhood, so.
Dick,
I don't-
any questions?
No, I think it's a great project, and I thank you for adding to the tax base of Yarmouth.
Okay. Anthony, any questions?
No questions for me.
And I have no questions either. The only comment I would make is I do believe the petitioner has demonstrated that they've met the criteria under the bylaw for a special permit under 104.3.2 subsection 2. And is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that that we grant a special permit under 104.3.2
Okay.
as requested.
Okay. Second to the motion.
I'll second.
John will second it. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Attorney Tardif, I will look forward to a draft decision, please.
You'll have it in the morning, thank you.
You're going to be busy.
Busy. That guy can ready to say, we don't,
Okay.
thank you very much, Attorney Tardif.
Good luck in
and
the
your
project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Dolores, do we have any other business?
We have minutes, but I don't think we have the right people in the room, Mr. Chairman, so we could,
Okay, so we'll hold off on approving those minutes. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second it?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Sean, you did a
Any
good job.
opposed?
That's a tough thing to do remotely.
I know it.